Chapter 1426. After the demon emperor finished speaking, he threw the demon god scepter to demon general Dark Knight. This ancient scepter was about 1.5 meters long, with 2 dark red blood dragons engraved on its handle. At the top of the scepter, an evil god with 3 heads and 6 arms was engraved with a domineering aura. This demon god scepter was a divine item of the demon race that had been passed down since the ancient times. It symbolized the majesty of the demon emperor. It was a primordial spirit-level magic treasure, and could be called a divine weapon in the Tianxian continent. However, ever since the demon emperor had obtained the extreme soul-splitting ruler, the demon god scepter's function had greatly diminished. Demon General Dark Knight held the demon god scepter respectfully. After bowing to the demon emperor, he quickly left the demon palace to gather the vanguard army. The incubus at the top of the demon god scepter twisted its body with excitement. It continuously transformed into various shadows and black fog, letting out waves of sinister laughter. Kikik. Ever since I received the demon emperor's instruction, I have been cultivating in seclusion for an entire year. Finally, I have mastered that secret technique. However, I have not used it yet. Tonight, I can test its power on these human insects. The incubus bared its fangs and brandished its claws. It could not wait to slaughter the human soldiers. Demon General Dark Knight held the demon god scepter and carried out the demon emperor's order with an ice-cold expression. He did not pay attention to the incubus words. After a short half-hour, he quickly gathered 1,000,000 vanguard army. Like a black tide, they rushed out of the underground cave and rushed towards Central State City. Although the demon race army moved with the cover of the pitch-black night and monstrous demonic fog. However, when 1,000,000 demon race soldiers galloped over the mountains and plains, they could not help but let out loud rumbling noises that spread far and wide. 4 hours later, the demon race army rushed 4,000 miles to the north of Central State City. At this time, the scouts and sentries of Central State City all sensed the demon race's movements. The human soldiers near the North City Gate immediately blew a loud bugle horn and lit a dazzling beacon fire. In the human camp in the city, 1,000,000 soldiers slept with their clothes on. They were ready to get up at any time and join the battle. When the horn sounded throughout the northern city, the 1,000,000 soldiers under the divine general of the northern frontier immediately gathered and rushed to the northern city wall. The imperial tutor, the northern godly general, Yun Zhongqi, Miracle Dr. Bailey, and a few other human masters all climbed up the northern city gate and looked at the land in the north. Everyone's expression was solemn, their killing intent surging as they waited for the arrival of the demon race's army. The imperial tutor held the horsetail whisk in his hand, his eyes twinkling as he said to the commanders around him, "Everyone, there's no need to worry. This is the vanguard of the demon army. According to my estimation, the devil race army is only 1,000,000 strong, and they are here to test the waters." The celestial emperor was right. 3 days have passed. The devil emperor must have been unable to suppress his killing intent, and immediately launched an attack. The commanders nodded, their expressions much more relaxed. Yun Zhongqi's lips curled into a cold smile, and he said hatefully, "By the time the demon army reaches the city, it will be dawn, and the people will be most relaxed. The devil emperor is as cunning as ever, not letting go of any details." The northern frontier godly general stared at the night sky with sharp eyes and said in a low voice, "This is the first and most important battle. The outcome will greatly affect the morale. We cannot lose." Miracle Dr. Bailey nodded and stroked his beard. "We cannot afford to lose this battle. Let's see who the commander is first." The imperial tutor smiled and waved his horsetail whisk. He said with certainty, "Who else can it be other than Demon Commander Dark Knight?" The few demon marshals under the demonic emperor had long been killed by Tianxing. Even the dozens of blood gods in the spirit refinement realm were killed by Tianxing. Only a dozen are left. Hearing these 2 sentences, Miracle Dr. Bailey and Yun Zhongqi revealed gratified smiles. They were quite proud. Very quickly, another 2 hours passed. The demon race army charged over in a grandiose manner and was about to reach the outskirts of Zhongzhou City. In the gloomy night sky, a dark red streak of light galloped over. Everyone looked up and saw 8 Devil Clan cultivators flying over together. The leader was a tall and sturdy demon race expert covered in black armor. It was Demon Commander Dark Knight. Of the 7 experts following behind it, only 2 were demon spirit controllers, while the other 5 were blood god's sons. Demon Commander Dark Knight and the others stopped 100 kilometers outside the city. They stood in the night sky and sized up the situation at the top of the city. Before long, the million-strong Vanguard army charged outside the city. Hundreds of thousands of demon race soldiers formed a battle formation and joined forces to release powerful spells, launching an attack on Zhongzhou City. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dazzling dark red light condensed into saber, spear, sword shadows and sky-splitting blades, bombarding the northern city gate like rain. All kinds of dark green, dark blue, and blood-colored demon fire also condensed into huge fireballs, pillars of fire, and demon phantoms, pouring down on the northern city gate. At the very front of the battle formation, the 2 spirit masters used secret techniques to summon more than 300,000 undead skeletons, which surged under the city gate like a white tide. The first battle of the decisive battle between the 2 armies thus began. The human army guarded the city tightly. Hundreds of thousands of people supported the operation of the formation, blocking the attacks of the demon race army. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers climbed up the city wall and lined up on the top of the wall. They formed a crossbow formation and shot a rain of arrows at the demon race army. There were also many soldiers controlling huge ballistae and catapults, fiercely bombarding the skeleton army outside the city. There were even martial experts and experts who released all kinds of ultimate secret techniques, pouring down raging flames, gales, and ice blades and frost swords that covered the sky and covered the earth into the demon race army's formation. The Imperial Tutor and the other commanders stood on the city wall. They were not in a hurry to make a move. They all stared at Demon Commander Dark Knight and the Blood Gods. When the Blood Gods saw that the battle had begun, they could not help but make a move. They released powerful strength and created all kinds of calamities. A Blood God released an earthquake tribulation, causing the surrounding thousands of kilometers to tremble violently. A super earthquake occurred, causing the entire Zhongzhou city to tremble violently. A blood god released a flood tribulation, causing blood to gush out from the ground and fill the sky. It turned into a huge wave that was more than a dozen zhang tall, violently smashing into the Zhongzhou city. There was also a poisonous plague and poisonous black water that covered the sky, also surging towards Zhongzhou city. As long as the slightest flaw or crack appeared in the defensive formation of Zhongzhou city, those calamities would spread into the city, causing immeasurable losses. Seeing this scene, Yun Zhongqi and the other commanders all made a move, blocking the calamities created by the blood gods. The Imperial Tutor was still standing on top of the city gate, staring at Demon Commander Dark Knight with a sharp gaze. He could clearly see that Demon Commander Dark Knight was holding a black scepter in his hand. There was a black shadow swaying at the top of the scepter. He obviously knew that the scepter was the demon god scepter. The black shadow attached to the demon god scepter was the nightmare. Chapter 1427. Facts proved that the Imperial Tutor's guess was correct. The Blood God Scions and Vanguard army under Demon Commander Dark Knight launched an attack, without any regard for their own safety. Only it stood in the dark night sky, silently looking at the demon god scepter in its hand. No one knew what it communicated with the incubus through voice transmission. A moment later, when the two armies were fighting fiercely, shaking the heavens and the earth in chaos, its figure quietly disappeared. Whoosh! It quietly drilled into the dark ground and let go of the demon god scepter. Nightmare Lord, be careful. Bunchwai will cover you. It stared at the demon god scepter and warned in a cold tone. Ha ha ha. Just wait for my good news. The Nightmare Lord replied confidently. It immediately controlled the demon god scepter and drilled into the depths of the ground. The demonic god scepter was its body. It hid itself 100 li underground and sped towards Central Continent City. Demon Commander Dark Knight also turned and left, flying back into the dark night sky. It looked down at the battlefield below and saw the undead skeletons and the demon army surging towards Central State City like a tide. It waved its hand and used a secret technique, releasing 1,000,000 netherworld bees to launch an attack. Whoosh whoosh. More than 1,000,000 netherworld bees streaked across the night sky as fast as lightning. They surged out like a black tide, rushing towards the North City Gate. The North City Gate and several dozen li of city walls were protected by a huge 7-colored light barrier. This was a primordial spirit formation personally arranged by the Emperor. It had a powerful defensive power. Demon Commander Dark Knight did not expect the netherworld bees to break through the formation. It only put pressure on Central State City to cover the Nightmare Lord's plan. Of course, after releasing the netherworld bees, it also took out a pitch-black sword and bravely attacked Central State City Gate. "Ghosts and gods avoid me," it shouted coldly and angrily, holding the pitch-black sword with both hands. It slashed out a blood-red sword light that could split heaven and earth, slashing towards the majestic North City Gate. Pung! The 300 jong long blood-red sword light slashed the defensive formation, exploding with a world-shaking sound. The 7-colored light shield of the array formation trembled and rippled as it was struck by the sword. Many of the human warriors who were supporting the operation of the grand formation paled in pain. "You reptiles of the human race are actually cowering like turtles. Who dares to fight with me?" Demon Commander Dark Knight stood majestically in the night sky with a sword in his hand and shouted with a cold voice. Its figure was tall and robust, and it wore black armor. Its entire body was suffused with dense devil chi, and it seemed to be extraordinarily domineering and valiant. Seeing this scene, the Devil Race Army's morale was immediately boosted. Their battle cries shook the heavens, and they became even more ferocious. Hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers joined forces to attack, and the defensive formation was actually shaking. Light flashed, and it seemed as if it was about to break. The human soldiers who were supporting the defensive formation were under even greater pressure. Many of them were seriously injured, vomiting blood, or lying unconscious on the ground. When the Imperial Tutor saw this scene, he pointed at Demon General Dark Knight outside the city and ordered the several commanders beside him. "You guys join hands to deal with it. It's best if you can kill it." One of the commanders stared blankly for a moment and muttered in his heart. Demon General Dark Knight is the #1 general under the Demon Emperor. He has the strength of the 9th layer of the refined soul layer. We are not his match at all. The Imperial Tutor can fight him, but why don't you do it yourself? The Imperial Tutor saw his strange expression and explained, "You guys keep a close eye on Demon General Dark Knight. This seat has more important things to do." One of the commanders casually asked, "Your Majesty Imperial Tutor, what is it?" "Demon God Scepter Nightmare." The Imperial Tutor dropped these words and quickly turned to leave. From the start of the war, the Imperial Tutor had been watching Demon General Dark Knight and noticed the Demon God Scepter and Nightmare. Now that Demon General Dark Knight had taken the initiative to attack, the Demon God Scepter and Nightmare had disappeared. With the Imperial Tutor's shrewdness and wisdom, how could he not detect a plot? Whoosh! His figure streaked across the night sky like lightning, and immediately drilled into the dark underground, flying towards the depths of the earth. Damned Nightmare! There must be some plot, or he wants to sneak into the city from underground. Although there is an underground city and a powerful defensive array, that Demon God Scepter is a primordial spirit-grade magic treasure, and it is very likely to break the array. Demon General Dark Knight is leading the army to attack the northern gate, and Nightmare is very likely to sneak into the city from the other 3 directions. This kind of diversion tactic, do you think you can hide it from this seat? With this thought in mind, the Imperial Tutor promptly released the power of his soul, enveloping an area of 80 li, and carefully searched. At that time, when Central State City was arranging various defensive arrays, he was a participant and also a supervisor. He knew very well where the weak points of each great formation were. He first started from the defensive array in the eastern part of the city, and gradually searched the southern part of the city, and then the western part of the city. In a short half an hour, he searched through all of Central Continent City's underground. However, he did not find the Demon God Scepter, nor did he detect the aura of Nightmare. Strange, the aura of the demon god scepter is very obvious, so why can't this seat sense it? The imperial tutor temporarily stopped his search, full of doubts. At the same time, the great battle outside the northern gate had already reached its fiercest level. More than 300,000 undead skeletons had been blasted to pieces by the human soldiers, piling up into small mountains of white bones outside the city. At least 100,000 demon soldiers had died outside the city walls, their mutilated corpses scattered on the ground. Black and purple demon blood converged into small streams and flowed into the moat, causing the water of the moat to swell, completely turning it dark red. However, this was not enough to intimidate the demon army. On the contrary, it made them even more excited and frenzied, attacking fiercely with murderous intent. The defensive array protecting the northern wall was actually blasted open several times, with cracks and gaps appearing, although those cracks and gaps were quickly repaired. However, the blood mist, poison, and plague released by the blood god's science took advantage of this opportunity to invade the city, causing a large number of deaths. In the night sky, Yin Zhongqi and several other commanders were besieging Demon Commander Dark Knight. Their strength was not as great as Demon Commander Dark Knight's, but they had the advantage in numbers, so they had the upper hand from the start. However, Demon Commander Dark Knight's 9 underworld armor had an incomparably strong defense, and only nascent soul magic treasures could break through it. As a result, it was in an almost undefeatable position against the human commanders. Just as the war was in full swing, and both sides were fiercely fighting, a hidden shadow suddenly flew out from a corner of the city wall. This was an ancient black scepter. It silently flew across the night sky and drilled into a human camp. This temporary camp was a manor with a radius of several thousand zhang, and there were more than 100,000 human soldiers stationed inside. When the black scepter flew into the manor, the mysterious shadow in the scepter immediately released invisible ripples of energy, spreading in all directions. The 120,000 soldiers in the manor were all dressed in armor, resting with swords and weapons as their pillows, ready to reinforce the front line at any time. Chapter 1428. 120,000 human soldiers were silently affected by the Nightmare Lord's secret technique. Everyone fell into a dream and could not wake up at all. The demon god scepter floated in the night sky, flickering with specks of red light, appearing very strange and mysterious. Within the scepter, the Nightmare Lord had already entered the dream domain created by the scepter, and was wantonly slaughtering. The strange dreamland domain was like a boundless black space. In the black space, there were densely packed white balls of mist floating. There were more than 120,000 of them, forming a white sea. These white balls of mist were the dreams of the soldiers, and were closely connected to their souls. The Nightmare Lord transformed into a dark purple giant demon that was 300 meters tall. Its appearance was hideous and terrifying, and it had a pair of demon wings. Its arms were thick and slender, and its 10 fingers were as sharp as knives. It waved its arms and formed a mysterious seal, releasing a powerful energy as it used a secret technique. Dream Soul Kill. With a low roar, an invisible mysterious force exploded, rolling up a violent shockwave, sweeping in all directions. Bam 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 bam. Wherever the mysterious energy swept, countless balls of mist would explode, creating a series of dull sounds. In just a few breaths' time, 120,000 balls of mist had all exploded, turning into a milky white air current that rolled like a wave. In the vast manor, 120,000 human warriors, who had been sleeping, were all killed without making a sound. They still maintained their resting postures, not moving at all, but their souls had already been destroyed, and their corpses were gradually becoming cold. On the surface, they did not seem to have any injuries, and not even a drop of blood could be seen. But just like that, they were silently slaughtered in a strange way. Ha 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 ha. The dream soul kill is actually so powerful. In the dream, I am an invincible god. The Nightmare Lord laughed excitedly, crazily devouring the wave-like white air current, refining it into its own power. That was the dream of 120,000 soldiers, and also the power of their souls. The Nightmare Lord quickly devoured the white air current, and its power was greatly increased. It left the dream domain in satisfaction, and returned to the demon god scepter. In the night, the manor was still silent, and covered in a layer of cold death aura. But no one noticed this change, and no one knew what was going on. Shwa, the demon god scepter streaked across the night sky, quietly leaving the manor, and flying to the next military camp. A moment later, the demonic god scepter flew into an ancient and dignified palace. This palace covered an area of 3,000 feet in radius. There were a few courtyards around it, and there were many secret rooms underground. About 80,000 human soldiers were stationed in this palace. They were warriors under the command of a human commander. They were resting in the military camp, waiting for orders, and could support the battle on the 4 city gates at any time. The palace was heavily guarded both inside and outside. There were hundreds of guards patrolling the area, as well as dozens of open and hidden sentries. However, to the King of Nightmares, all of this was useless. The demonic god scepter concealed its aura and sneaked into the palace. The King of Nightmares began to use his secret technique again, releasing a mysterious, formless energy that enveloped a radius of 10,000 feet. Next, the same scene played out. After being affected by the mysterious power, more than 80,000 human soldiers fell into a deep dream and fell unconscious on the ground. Regardless of whether it was True Energy Realm, or Tongxian Realm ordinary soldiers, or Origin Core Realm, or Heavenly Origin Realm generals, none of them were able to withstand the Nightmare's secret art. Within the dream domain, the King of Nightmares began its massacre. It laughed savagely as it detonated more than 80,000 balls of white mist. After killing all the soldiers, it devoured their souls and dream domain energy. In a short span of 100 breaths, the entire palace fell into a deathly silence. Just like that, over 80,000 human warriors died in a strange way. The demonic god scepter silently left the palace and flew through the night sky. The King of Nightmares looked around with greedy eyes, searching for the next hunting ground. The imperial tutor gripped his horsetail whisk and flew through the night sky with a gloomy expression, frowning as he pondered. That damned King of Nightmares, just where is it hiding? Since it has appeared, it must have taken action. It definitely won't let this matter rest. Perhaps it's hiding near the northern city gate, waiting for the demon army to break through the defensive array, so that it can charge into the city? This thought flashed through the imperial tutor's mind as he sped back to the northern city gate. Previously, he had searched the eastern, western, and southern city gates, but he had not searched near the northern city gate. He had a faint premonition that the King of Nightmares was hiding near the northern city gate. Whoosh! He cut through the night sky as fast as lightning, flying over an ancient manor. This place was only 20 kilometers away from the northern city gate. The imperial tutor's spiritual energy inadvertently swept across the manor. He immediately sensed that something was amiss and hurriedly stopped. He knew very well that the manor was an army camp, and there were more than 100,000 human soldiers stationed there. At this moment, although the manor was brightly lit, there was not a single person in sight. Furthermore, after he used his spiritual energy to investigate, he discovered that the 100,000 soldiers in the manor had all lost their vitality and turned into ice-cold corpses. This result caused his body to shake violently, and his expression changed on the spot. How could this be? More than 100,000 soldiers, without a single injury, died without a sound? The imperial tutor's expression darkened. He hurriedly landed in the manor and carefully inspected the injuries of the soldiers. A moment later, he found the result. They actually died in their sleep, and their souls were directly obliterated. This is the King of Nightmares method. The damned King of Nightmares. It has already snuck into the city and begun to assassinate our soldiers. The imperial tutor murmured in a cold voice. He was so angry that his white beard trembled. He hurriedly left the manor and flew into the dark night sky. His left hand formed a seal, and his right hand waved the horsetail whisk, beginning to cast a secret technique. Open the third eye. His left hand formed a seal, and a dazzling golden light flashed. He wiped his eyes, and his pupils instantly turned golden. In the blink of an eye, his eyes turned into the legendary secret technique Third Eye. It had the ability to see through illusions, fog, and camouflage, and could see things that ordinary experts could not. He stood high in the sky, and his golden third eye overlooked the northern city district. Soon he discovered all kinds of strange phenomena. At least 5 army camps and 600,000 human soldiers had been brutally murdered by the King of Nightmares. The 5 army camps seemed peaceful on the surface, but they were actually places of death, filled with an invisible aura of death. The souls of the soldiers stationed in the camps had long been obliterated, and they had turned into ice-cold corpses. When the Imperial Tutor's third eye swept across an army camp 20 kilometers away, he immediately saw a black shadow casting a spell on 100,000 soldiers. "I finally found you, damned King of Nightmares. Let's see where you can escape to this time." The Imperial Tutor's voice was cold and angry. He waved the horsetail whisk in his hand and rushed over like a flash of light. Chapter 1429. Swoosh. In the blink of an eye, the Imperial Tutor had teleported 10 miles away and arrived above the military camp. The dark and cold demonic god scepter was floating in the military camp, releasing invisible demonic power. The incubus entered the dream realm and transformed into a 1,000 feet tall demon. It looked at the dense white fog and laughed proudly. It liked to control the dream realm and rampage in other people's dreams, slaughtering wantonly, especially after it had been in seclusion for a year and mastered the dream soul kill. It wanted to kill and enjoy the pleasure of being a god in the dream realm. However, just as it was about to use the secret technique to kill the 100,000 soldiers, a dazzling golden light descended from the sky and struck the demonic god scepter. Bam! With a dull explosion, the demonic god scepter was sent flying and smashed into a palace not far away. Kaboom! A huge hole was blasted in the majestic palace. Half of the wall collapsed, and countless bricks and rubble splattered everywhere. Although the demonic god scepter was an immortal soul-level magic treasure with extremely strong defense, it was not damaged. However, the incubus's plan was thwarted. The dream realm shook violently, and the secret technique it was about to use was interrupted. Swoosh! The dream realm dissipated, and it returned to the top of the demonic god scepter. It turned into a black shadow and looked at the night sky outside the ruins. The Imperial Tutor quickly waved the horsetail whisk in his hand, and instantly, 6 golden lights shot towards the demonic god scepter. "Incubus! You damned demon! Your death is not to be regretted!" The Imperial Tutor roared angrily. His body emitted a dazzling golden light and released a powerful aura. Bam! 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 The incubus could not dodge in time, and was hit by the 6 golden lights. A series of dull sounds rang out. The demonic god scepter was sent flying again and smashed into the ground, creating a huge crater in the ground. The ground in a radius of 10,000 feet shook violently. Such a shocking commotion did not wake up the 100,000 soldiers in the military camp. Everyone was still in a state of deep sleep and could not wake up from the dream. Seeing this, the Imperial Tutor used the soul-shaking roar and roared. Roar! The sound waves, which contained powerful soul power undulations, engulfed the entire military camp and covered the 100,000 soldiers. Immediately, everyone's faces turned pale from the shock, and they were immediately freed from the dreamland. Many of them had a splitting headache. They hugged their heads and groaned in pain. Some of the weaker soldiers even had blood flowing out of their noses and mouths. The Imperial Tutor's method of forcefully awakening the soldiers was too simple and crude. It caused some damage to their bodies and souls. But in such a critical situation, this was the only way he could solve the problem effectively. The demonic god scepter flew out of the deep pit and floated in the night sky. The King of Nightmares roared angrily. "Imperial Tutor, you despicable old thing! How dare you ruin my plans? I'm going to kill you!" As he roared, the demonic god scepter shot out several streaks of dark red light towards the Imperial Tutor. Swish! Swish! The 4 streaks of blood-red light were all 30 meters long. They erupted with extremely violent power and engulfed the Imperial Tutor's figure. The Imperial Preceptor waved his horsetail whisk, and golden light danced in the air, forming a golden wall in front of him. Bang! 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 The 4 streaks of blood-red light hit the golden wall, producing a series of muffled sounds that echoed in the night sky. The golden wall and the blood-red light streaks collapsed at the same time, exploding into fragments that flew in all directions. The Imperial Tutor was also sent flying 100 meters away. He crashed into a house and shattered the entire house. The terrifying shockwave swept across a radius of a few hundred meters and sent thousands of soldiers flying. The soldiers came to their senses and realized that a strong enemy had invaded. They hurriedly shouted and roared, seeking help. At the same time, some of the stronger experts joined forces to attack the demonic god scepter. The demonic god scepter ignored everyone's attacks and released blood-red ripples that spread in all directions. Immediately, several hundred elite experts were sent flying. Those Yuan Dan experts all had blood spurting out from their orifices, or their bodies exploded. More than half of them died on the spot. The Imperial Tutor arrived just in time and used his technique to block the blood-red ripples. His left hand formed a seal, and his right hand waved his horsetail whisk. He stood majestically in the night sky and used his secret technique to attack the Nightmare Lord. However, the Nightmare Lord used the demonic god scepter as its body and could block almost all secret technique attacks. It blocked the Imperial Tutor's secret technique and released a monstrous demonic chi and black light. It began a massacre in the army camp, wantonly slaughtering 100,000 soldiers. A huge rumbling sound exploded in the night sky and spread across half of Central State City. Various blood-red and purple lights also flashed in the night sky, attracting everyone's attention. The entire army camp was in chaos. In just 20 seconds, more than 40,000 soldiers had lost their lives. The remaining tens of thousands of soldiers were forced to retreat in panic and flee in all directions. The Nightmare Lord still wanted to pursue and kill even more soldiers to create chaos in the city. The Imperial Preceptor dashed forward to stop it without any regard for his own safety. He used all kinds of skills and secret techniques to fight with the Nightmare Lord. The two fought for a while, and the shockwaves from their battle destroyed everything in a radius of 10 miles. Unfortunately, the Imperial Tutor could not do anything to the Nightmare Lord. Instead, his soul was injured by the Nightmare Lord's secret technique, and his strength was greatly weakened. 100 seconds later, more than a dozen Heaven Origin Realm generals and a few Soul Refinement Realm generals came from all directions to provide reinforcements. Everyone worked together to attack the Nightmare Lord and immediately tied it down, preventing it from causing trouble in the city. Seeing that the situation was bad, the Nightmare Lord stopped fighting and turned to flee into the distance. It was very clear that these people could not do anything to it and would not be able to cause any harm to it. However, its whereabouts had been exposed, so it could not stay here for long. The human Sovereign Emperor was overseeing the city. If it delayed too long and provoked the Sovereign Emperor, it would be in danger. Whoosh! The Nightmare Lord controlled the Demon God Scepter and streaked across the night sky like a streak of light. In the blink of an eye, it had shaken off everyone and burrowed into the depths of the ground. The generals and many Heaven Origin Realm experts did not give up and burrowed into the ground, swearing to capture the Nightmare Lord and the Demon God Scepter. However, the Demon God Scepter was an Origin Soul Realm magic treasure after all. It was just too fast. In just a few seconds, the Demon God Scepter had burrowed 100 miles into the ground and quickly escaped from the vicinity of Central State City. The generals chased to the edge of Central State City, but when they sensed the Demon God Scepter's aura leaving, they could only retreat helplessly. After this ordeal, Central State City was in quite a bit of chaos. More than 600,000 soldiers had been slaughtered by the Nightmare Lord, which infuriated the generals. They wanted nothing more than to kill the Nightmare Lord 10 times over. The Imperial Tutor remained calm and ordered the generals to tighten their defenses. Then, he rushed to the North Gate and threw himself into the battle. Near the North Gate, the battle between the two armies had already reached its peak. Chapter 1430. In order to put pressure on the human defenders and cooperate with the Nightmare's assassination, Demon Commander Dark Knight and the army of the devil race attacked continuously for 2 hours. The defensive array covering the northern gate was broken through 8 times in succession, each time creating cracks and holes. However, the cracks and holes in the defensive array were quickly repaired. Apart from the nightmare and the demonic fog and poisonous gas, the demon army could not enter Central Continent City through the cracks. Now the nightmare's actions had been exposed and the plan had failed. Escaping from Central Continent City, Demon Commander Dark Knight did not waste any more time, and the lives of the demon soldiers, decisively stopping the attack. In a short 100 breaths of time, more than 100,000 undead skeletons and more than 600,000 demon soldiers retreated like a tide, quickly leaving Central Continent City. The shouts and sounds of fighting near the northern gate gradually weakened and dissipated. The morning sun was about to rise, and a new day was about to arrive. The first battle between the two armies had also ended, although this battle was only a probing attack by the demons. But the battle was extremely bitter, and the result was also shocking. Outside the northern gate, the moat was covered in countless bones and demon corpses, the river water also turning dark red. On the wasteland, there were piles of white bones and demon corpses all over the ground. At least 400,000 undead skeletons and more than 300,000 demon soldiers were killed in this battle. The human defenders also suffered several tens of thousands of deaths and 100,000 injuries. 5 barracks in Central Continent City were destroyed, and more than 600,000 human soldiers were massacred by the nightmare. In comparison, the human losses were even more disastrous. After the battle ended, the soldiers immediately busied themselves, cleaning up the battlefield, reinforcing the defensive array, and rebuilding the barracks. The imperial tutor and several commanders hurried to the city lord's mansion to report the situation to the emperor. After the emperor learned of the situation, he thought for a while, and then issued several orders to strengthen the defenses of Central Continent City. In particular, those defensive arrays needed to be strengthened to prevent the nightmare from sneaking into the city and causing trouble again. In the emperor's mansion, the imperial palace was still quiet. In the dimly lit secret room, Ji Tianxing was still sitting cross-legged on the frigid ice jade bed, completely focused on cultivating. In another 7 days, the 2-month deadline would be up. At that time, the ancient divine formation in the secret chamber would shut down and lose the effect of time acceleration. Now Ji Tianxing had already cultivated the 3rd level of the Sword Soul Dao. His martial Dao foundation was even more solid, and his strength had also increased by 2 times. He was still meditating on a lost art, the 5th sword of the Burial of Heaven, the 7 Stars sword. Before Burial of Heaven entered the 9th heaven cauldron, he taught him the 5th sword technique. The power of this sword technique was too strong, and the cultivation requirements were also very high. Only when he reached the Essence Soul realm would he have a chance of successfully cultivating it. Big Dipper Sword, 1 sword to shatter 7 stars. If Ji Tianxing was strong enough, the 4th sword would be able to cut open the sky and see the starry sky. The 5th sword strike could shatter 7 stars with a single strike. The stars were unreachable. Although they looked small, they were actually another vast and magnificent world. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the might of this Big Dipper sword had attained. It was no exaggeration to say that this was a true god-tier sword art. Only those in the martial god realm could unleash the true power of the sword technique. Ji Tianxing paid no attention to the matters of the outside world. He only cultivated with all his might, and did his best to increase his strength. The day he mastered this divine art would be the day he returned to the mountain and took revenge. A day passed quickly. After a day of rest, Central State City temporarily calmed down. Several defensive formations had also been strengthened by the emperors and commanders, and the defenses were even tighter. In the middle of the night, muffled rumbling came from the north of Central State City. This was the sound of thousands of soldiers and horses trampling over the earth. It spread far and wide in the silent night. The human soldiers sensed that something was wrong. Realizing that the demon army was about to launch another attack, they immediately blew the horn to defend. The 1,000,000 soldiers guarding the north of the city were immediately on high alert. The defensive formations were pushed to their limits, forming a dazzling 7-colored barrier that illuminated half of the city. More than 100,000 elite soldiers climbed up the city walls. They lined up in a row with bows and crossbows, and set up all kinds of defensive equipment. The imperial tutor and various commanders hurried to the north gate, personally assuming command. However, 2 hours later, the 3 million-strong demon army had arrived outside Central State City, but they were divided into 2 groups. The first group was led by Demon Commander Dark Knight, attacking the north gate with all their strength. The other group was led by Nightmare, attacking the east gate with all their strength. Seeing this scene, the imperial tutor promptly made the corresponding arrangements. He sent several commanders to assist the Northern Frontier Divine General and Eastern Woods Divine General Xiaohan. Not long after, the great battle began. The war cries and roars of the million soldiers converged into a deafening sound wave that resounded in the sky above Central State City. The 2 demon army launched an attack without any regard for anything. This attack was very fierce, and definitely not probing. The demon army seemed to have made up their mind to break through the defenses of Central State City. In front of the demon army were hundreds of thousands of undead skeletons and evil demons, attacking without any regard for their lives. The hundreds of thousands of demon army soldiers formed a battle formation. Using the combined battle formation, they released attacks comparable to primordial spirit powerhouses, constantly bombarding Central State City's defensive formations. The demon army even used more than 2,000 fierce demon beasts. These demon beasts were of different species and had different appearances, but they were all as large as mountains, possessing immense strength and terrifying destructive power. They angrily roared and released powerful killing moves, fiercely attacking the 2 city gates. The human army was under great pressure. Soon the few defensive magic formations were broken. Cracks and holes appeared on the defensive magic formations. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the blood god children who had been waiting for a long time hurriedly released poison, plagues, blood water, demon chi and other powers, pouring them into Central State City. They also created super earthquakes and floods, and even urged the surging magma of the Earth's core to pour into Central State City. Outside the North Gate and East Gate, the scene of the great battle was extremely intense, the scene incredibly chaotic. Large numbers of casualties quickly appeared among the human soldiers. There were constantly people who died, or were heavily injured, and lost the ability to fight. The human army garrisoned in the city continuously reinforced the 2 battlefields, filling in the gaps in their numbers. The great battle continued for an entire 2 hours. The demon army's attacks were still fierce, without any intention of retreating. The imperial tutor and the commanders all realized that the demon army's attack tonight was probably not that simple. They definitely had some sort of scheme or backup plan. Just as everyone gathered together and discussed this matter with grave expressions, a monstrous bloody light flew over from the northern night sky. Muffled rumbling noises could be heard coming from the mountains and wastelands in the distance. Chapter 1431. In the blink of an eye, that huge dark red light flew to the northern city gate. The blood light stopped 10 miles away from the city, and quickly condensed into a tall and burly figure. This person was more than 10 feet tall, and had 2 heads. He wore a purple robe, and was covered in black dragon scales. He exuded a powerful and domineering aura. He was the ancient demon emperor. Behind him stood a few blood god's sons in the soul refinement realm. Demon General Dark Knight hurried to welcome the demon emperor. After bowing respectfully, he followed the demon emperor's instructions, and ordered the demon army to stop attacking. 15 minutes later, the demon army left behind more than 200,000 corpses, and retreated hundreds of miles away to rest in the wilderness. The imperial tutor and the commander's expressions changed when they saw the ancient demon emperor arrive. Their eyes were very serious. The imperial guards guarding the city gate hurriedly rushed to the city lord's residence to report the news to the emperor. As time passed, the rumbling sounds got closer and closer. The imperial preceptor and the various commanders looked to the north, and very quickly saw that under the curtain of night, there were several demon armies galloping towards them as fast as the wind. Looking around, there were demon army soldiers in all directions. It was as boundless as a black sea. The imperial preceptor roughly estimated that there were at least 5 million demon soldiers in the army that the devil emperor brought with him. The demon army had occupied the area of 1,000 miles outside Zhongzhou city. When the devil army reached 100 li away from the city, they stopped one after another and got into an offensive formation. The biting cold north wind blew over, bringing with it a boundless chill of death. The arrival of millions of demon army caused demon chi to fill the sky outside Zhongzhou city. The area of a few thousand miles was covered by black clouds. An invisible suppressive force coiled around the hearts of the human soldiers, causing them to feel immense pressure. Their hearts felt heavy. The imperial tutor, Yin Zhongqi, and the others looked at the demon emperor and demon general Dark Knight outside the city. They murmured with grave expressions, "Is the final battle about to begin?" The demon emperor has always been sinister and cunning. The demon race's attacks are extremely fast. The demon emperor is leading an army to attack. I'm afraid it's going to be a battle to the death tonight. Soon, a golden light lit up in the sky above Zhongzhou city and flew over as fast as lightning. Shua. After a few breaths, the golden light landed on the wall of the northern city gate and stood in front of the imperial tutor and the commanders. The person who had come was the imperial emperor. He was dressed in golden dragon-patterned armor and a dark golden cloak. The human sovereign sword hung at his waist, making him look sacred and dignified. Judging from the emperor's attire, it was obvious that he was going to personally lead the army and participate in the battle. Clearly, he also thought that the demon emperor was personally leading the attack to start a decisive battle. The demon emperor stood proudly on the city wall and stared at the demon emperor with burning eyes. Ever since the demon emperor arrived outside the city, he had been waiting silently. At this moment, as the emperor showed up, he said in a deep and cold voice, "Long Xuanquan, from the moment the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass was broken, the human race was doomed. Now that things have reached this point, you can only hole up in Central State City, yet you still want to stubbornly resist. You are truly stubborn. You know very well that not only the human race, the Water Clan and the Demon Clan, are also destined to be defeated. In the end, this profound sky continent will belong to the Demon Clan. Meaningless resistance will only lead to more sacrifices. More innocent human beings will die miserably because of your stubborn resistance." The demon emperor's voice contained soul-suppressing power. Like rolling thunder, it resounded in the night sky and spread across the entire Central State City. The invisible soul-suppressing power quietly bewitched the rationality of the human warriors and civilians, stirring up their emotions. The imperial emperor immediately saw through the demon emperor's scheme and revealed a disdainful sneer. "Demon emperor, you are a great demon who has lived for thousands of years, the emperor of the demon clan of the northern desert. You have always been treacherous and cunning. I didn't expect that you would use such low-level instigation tricks. How laughable." The imperial emperor shouted coldly with disdain. His majestic voice spread across the entire Central State City. His voice also contained invisible soul-suppressing power that could calm the minds of the warriors and civilians, keeping them calm and rational. The imperial emperor pressed the hilt of the human sovereign sword with his left hand and pointed at the human warriors on the city wall with his right hand. He said with a vigorous voice, "Demon emperor, no matter how you try to bewitch people, you will never be able to shake the will of our warriors and civilians. We humans have a blood feud with the demon clan. We are like fire and water, and we will fight to the death. No matter what you say, we human warriors will unite and fight to the death. We will shed our last drop of blood to kill the demon clan." As the imperial emperor's voice faded away, the million warriors in the northern city area all let out a vigorous roar that shook the heavens. "Fight the demon clan to the death." The million warriors shouted at the same time. Their imposing manner was magnificent and stirring. The horrifying sound waves shook the sky and spread for thousands of miles, shaking the earth. The demon emperor revealed a vicious sneer and said with a mocking tone, "Long Xuanquan, since you human warriors are so united and want to fight to the end, I will give you a great gift." At the same time, I also want to see if you are a virtuous and wise human imperial emperor, or a hypocritical and heartless hypocrite." As his voice faded away, the demon emperor waved his right hand and shot out a blood-red light that covered the sky. The blood-red light was like a flood that poured down from the night sky onto the ground and immediately spread out. After the blood-red light landed on the ground, it quickly dissipated, and one figure after another appeared. There were countless humans, men and women, old and young. Most of them were old and weak. Judging from their attire, they were obviously the people of the Central Plains. Almost all of them were covered in wounds and blood, and their spirits were weak and frightened. They huddled together in fear, crying and moaning in pain from time to time. As the blood-red light continued to pour down, more and more humans appeared on the ground. They huddled together like ants, forming a dark mass. After 100 breaths of time, the demon emperor retracted his right arm, and the blood-red light stopped pouring down. On the blood-soaked ground, hundreds of thousands of pitiful and weak humans appeared. They huddled together in a chaotic mess, and their cries were heart-wrenching. Obviously, the demon emperor had used the secret technique of the heaven and earth sleeve to store the hundreds of thousands of humans in his sleeve. Outside the Central Plains city, in front of the two armies, he released these humans at the critical moment. There were more than 300,000 humans piled up on the barren land. At first, they were filled with fear. Seeing the demon clan army around them, they knew that they could not escape or live, and they all cried in despair. After a while, some people saw the Central Plains city not far away, and they all cried out in joy and excitement. Instantly, countless humans were awakened and looked up at the North Gate. Chapter 1432. The Emperor and the Imperial Tutors' faces darkened when they saw the Demon King release hundreds of thousands of civilians. They didn't need to guess to know that this was the Demon King's great gift. Without a doubt, this was not a great gift. This was a cruel and ruthless scheme. Sure enough, the Demon Emperor looked down at the hundreds of thousands of human beings under his feet, curled his lips into a mocking sneer, and said loudly, "Worms, do you see this? That is Zhongzhou City. Those standing on the city wall are your imperial tutor and the emperor, as well as the soldiers who protect the human race." The 300,000 civilians all looked up at the North Gate and the soldiers on the city wall. Everyone's heart was filled with a strong desire to survive. However, they were surrounded by the demon army and could not escape. They would be killed if they tried anything funny. Their only hope of survival was in the hands of the soldiers who were guarding the city. The Demon King sneered and said to the civilians in a bewitching voice, "Do you want to live? If you want to live, beg your emperor to send an army to save you." As his voice fell, the citizens were instantly energized, shouting and crying for help at the top of their lungs. "Your Majesty, save us. We don't want to die. Please save us. Your Majesty, kill the Demon King and kill all these demons." The cries of the hundreds of thousands of civilians gathered into a deafening sound wave that crashed into Zhongzhou City. The human soldiers near the North City Gate all looked anxious and worried. Their expressions became complicated. Seeing their human compatriots covered in wounds, pain, and helplessness, everyone couldn't bear to see them suffer in such a miserable and hopeless manner. Almost every normal person would feel pity for them and want to step forward to save the people from the hands of the demon race. However, the soldiers suppressed these thoughts in their hearts. They remembered the military order and would not make a fuss. They would not act on their own. The demon emperor looked at the demon emperor with a cold smile and said in a mocking tone, "Long Xuanquan, these insects are your people. They are all waiting for you to save their lives. As an imperial emperor of the human race, you once swore to the world and your ancestors that you would use your life to protect the people and territories of the human race. If you don't want to see these worms being massacred by this emperor, then hurry up and send an army to rescue them. Of course, I have long seen that you are a heartless, hypocritical, and despicable tyrant. You would definitely leave him in the lurch, right? Ha ha ha." With that, the demon emperor placed his hands behind his back and laughed maniacally. The millions of demon soldiers in the wilderness also let out ear-piercing jeers. When the emperor, the imperial tutor, and the other commanders saw this scene, Their faces became more and more unsightly. Flames of anger flickered in their eyes. The soldiers guarding the city were also furious. They stared at the demon emperor with murderous eyes. Above and below the city walls, countless soldiers were cursing angrily and discussing among themselves. In front of almost 10 million people, the devilish emperor cursed the emperor as a heartless, hypocritical, and despicable tyrant. The human soldiers naturally didn't believe this nonsense. No matter how the devilish emperor slandered the emperor, he couldn't destroy the emperor's image in their hearts. However, more than 300,000 people were suffering outside the city. Could the emperor watch as the commoners were killed without doing anything? To save them or not to save them? This was a problem that gave him a headache. The emperor, the imperial tutor, and the human commanders all knew that these 300,000 people had been abducted by the demon army after they killed their way into Central Plains. The demon emperor had deliberately used these people as hostages to put on a good show outside Central Plains. He wanted to attack the hearts of the human soldiers. The people were innocent and helpless, miserable and in pain. They could die at any moment under the demon's blade. The emperor and the commanders couldn't bear to see this and wanted to save the people. However, they knew that this was the demon emperor's scheme. If the emperor sent out an army to fight the demons and save the people, the human army would definitely be surrounded by countless human soldiers. The human soldiers who went out of the city to fight were bound to be besieged by millions of demons. In the end, they would be completely annihilated and would not be able to save the civilians. If the emperor insisted on not sending reinforcements, everyone could only watch as the 300,000 people were slaughtered by the demons. This would undoubtedly prove that the emperor was a heartless hypocrite. It would deal a heavy blow to the morale of the human soldiers. In short, whether he saved the people or not, the emperor was in a bad position. The imperial tutor and the commanders angrily cursed the demon emperor for being despicable and shameless. They also tried to persuade the people outside the city, explaining the pros and cons of the situation to them. Everyone, don't listen to the demon emperor. He is the cruelest and most cold-blooded demon. This is the demon race's scheme. They want to break our morale and force us to fight outside the city. My people, please believe in the imperial court, and please believe in the soldiers of my race. We will always exist to protect the people of the human race. But tonight, we might have to disappoint everyone. Please understand. In order to protect Central State City, and to protect the millions of people in the world, we cannot open the city to fight. The 300,000 people were originally filled with hope for survival, fantasizing about a miracle. They shouted loudly and begged humbly. However, after hearing the words of the imperial tutor and the commanders, the people felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over their heads. Their bodies immediately turned cold, and they looked as if they had lost their souls. Countless people were in despair. They cried bitterly, kneeling on the ground and begging. Some people went crazy in despair. They laughed crazily and cursed angrily. Some cursed the demons for being despicable and cruel. Some cursed the emperor and the imperial court for being hypocritical and not saving them. Under the threat of death, many people lost their minds and spoke without thinking. However, when the city guards saw this scene, they couldn't get angry at all, and they couldn't blame the people. Everyone's mood became more and more uncomfortable. It was as if a large stone was pressing down on their hearts. They were so angry that they almost couldn't breathe. Soon, 20 breaths of time passed. Seeing that the emperor still hadn't made a decision, the demon emperor waved his sleeve and ordered Demon Commander Dark Knight. Kill. Demon Commander Dark Knight gave the order. Immediately, over 10,000 demon soldiers charged at the people of the human race with swords and sabers. At least 10,000 people were lifted up by the demon soldiers. They waved their swords and sabers, and their necks were cut off. The sound of bones breaking, the sound of corpses falling to the ground, the wails of the dying people, and the terrified screams. All kinds of sounds gathered together and resounded through the night sky. In the blink of an eye, over 10,000 people were slaughtered. Corpses and blood flowed all over the ground. The biting cold northern wind, carrying a thick smell of blood, blew on the walls of Central State City. Countless human soldiers were so angry that their eyes turned red. Their bodies surged with killing intent. Chapter 1433. The Demon King had ordered the slaughter of tens of thousands of civilians in front of the emperor and countless human soldiers. This was a huge blow to the human soldiers and infuriated everyone. No one could endure such humiliation. Any soldier with a bit of courage wanted to go out of the city and fight the demon race. However, this was the situation that the emperor, the imperial tutor, and the various commanders did not want to see the most. If the emperor really opened the city gates and sent his army out to fight, the human soldiers would definitely suffer heavy casualties. The Demon King might even take this opportunity to break into Zhongzhou City and start a massacre. Once Zhongzhou City fell, the human race would be completely finished. There was nothing that could be done. The emperor's expression was extremely cold. He stared at the Demon King with a sharp gaze, his eyes almost shooting out tangible sword light. Ancient Demon King, you don't deserve to be called an ancient demon, nor do you deserve to be called a supreme expert. How dare you use such a despicable and shameless trick? The Demon King stared at the emperor and sneered contemptuously. I am the Demon King, the emperor of the demon race. Of course I am cold-blooded and heartless. I will do anything to achieve my goals. Don't tell me you want to talk about morality with a great devil? Ha ha ha. The Demon King laughed maniacally and waved his sleeves again. Kill again. On the ground, the tens of thousands of demon race soldiers grabbed tens of thousands of civilians and slashed them down. PFFF, PFFF, PFFF. Heads were chopped off one after another, splattering blood as they rolled on the ground. More than 300,000 civilians were scared out of their wits by this bloody and cruel scene. They screamed and wailed at the top of their lungs. There were even many commoners who lost their minds and rushed out of the crowd without any regard for their own safety, desperately rushing towards the North City Gate. However, as soon as they charged out of the crowd, they were chopped into minced meat by countless flashing blades. Blood splattered all over the ground. What a scene of purgatory on earth. This scene was even more cruel and inhumane than a battle between two armies. The human officers and soldiers on the city wall were all trembling with anger. Their teeth clenched so hard that creaking sounds could be heard. Many of the generals could not suppress the emotions of the soldiers and had no choice but to ask their commanders for orders to fight. Undoubtedly, the plot of Versatile Demon Emperor played a great role, as it greatly stimulated the human generals and soldiers. The emperor saw that the situation was a little agitated. If he did not think of a way to suppress it, he was afraid that the soldiers would lose control of their emotions. Thus, he stepped into the night sky against the wind and stood proudly above the city gate. He didn't pay attention to the demon emperor. His expression was heavy as he looked at the civilians outside the city. With a solemn and respectful voice he said, "My people, for Central Continent City, and for all of humanity, this emperor cannot send troops to save you. However, I, the imperial tutor, the emperor, and all the soldiers of the human race are here to send you off. This emperor will forever remember your sacrifice and this blood feud. This emperor swears to the heavens in the name of my ancestors that I will do everything in my power to avenge all the innocent people who died. Fight the demons to the death." The emperor's dignified and solemn voice resounded clearly throughout the entire area. With that, he bowed deeply to the 300,000 people outside the city. More than 300,000 civilians fell silent. Everyone looked at him in despair. They no longer roared. Instead, they became abnormally quiet and silent. Only tears kept flowing out of their eyes. Above and below the city wall, the million human generals and soldiers all looked at the civilians outside the city with solemn and respectful expressions. At this moment, the eyes of many unyielding men and heroes turned red as tears silently flowed down their cheeks. Everyone remembered this scene. Their hearts were filled with murderous intent. They swore to kill all the demons in the world. In the night sky outside the city, the versatile demon emperor saw the solemn and sorrowful expressions of the human race and laughed loudly again. Ha 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 ha. Human worms, do you see? This is the emperor you worship like a god. What bullshit emperor? This is a complete bastard, a cowardly and useless hypocrite. You still want to work for him? This is ridiculous and shameful. The versatile demon emperor cursed arrogantly and domineeringly, degrading the emperor as if he was worthless. However, the million soldiers guarding the city didn't talk, nor did they look at the emperor. Everyone glared at the versatile demon emperor. They wanted nothing more than to kill him with their gazes. The emperor also suppressed his anger and murderous intent. His voice was like a bell as he shouted, "All soldiers prepare for battle. Defend Central State City at all costs." His loud voice spread through half the city. The million soldiers all gripped their weapons and defended with all their might. The versatile demon emperor saw that his scheme had failed. He didn't want to waste any more time. The 300,000 civilians in the wasteland had lost their value. Therefore, he waved his sleeve and sent out a bloody light that covered the sky. It poured down like a tide. Whoosh! The bloody light drowned the 300,000 civilians. Everyone was immediately corroded into skeletons. Boundless blood chi and soul essences converged into a blood cloud that soared into the sky and floated in the night sky. The dozen or so soul refinement realm blood gods hurriedly devoured the bloody cloud to quickly increase their strength. The versatile demon emperor regained his cold and dignified attitude. He ordered, "All soldiers, attack the northern city gate with all your might. Tonight, we will break through Central State City. The first one to kill his way into Central State City will be conferred the title of Demon Commander by this emperor. He will be rewarded with 100 years of cultivation." His majestic and mighty voice spread across hundreds of kilometers of heaven and earth. Millions of demon soldiers were stimulated by these words. Their blood surged, and their fighting spirit and killing intent soared to the sky. "Kill! All soldiers, move out! Kill all the humans! We will break through Central State City." At least 3 million demon soldiers were the first to attack. Their roars and battle cries resounded through the sky. When the millions of soldiers charged, the earth rumbled as they stepped on it. It was like thunder. The demon army was like a boundless black tide, madly charging at the northern city gate. The final battle that would decide the fate of the human race was about to begin. Tonight was bound to be a night of slaughter, with corpses and rivers of blood. But at this time, in the distant northern night sky, golden light flames, and the dazzling light of magic techniques suddenly lit up the sky. A series of heavy explosions, the sounds of secret techniques colliding, came from 10,000 li away. The sudden upheaval stunned the versatile demon emperor, demon commander Dark Knight, the emperor, and the imperial tutor. All the experts subconsciously looked at the northern night sky with puzzled expressions. They saw that in the night sky 10,000 li away, the light and shadows of magic techniques were colliding. Dazzling light blossomed, illuminating the night sky like it was daytime. It was clear that a large number of experts were fighting in that area. The versatile demon emperor, demon commander Dark Knight, and the others trembled, their expressions changing. "It's our main camp. Damn it. Someone actually attacked our main camp. Bastard. Who would attack it this time?" On the city wall, the emperor and the imperial tutor looked at each other and smiled, as if relieved of a heavy burden. Chapter 1434. To the north of Zhongzhou City, the demon race's camp thousands of miles away was shrouded in a colorful light. Rays of Dharma spells bloomed and lit up the dark night sky. Muffled sounds of collisions and explosions could be heard from the night sky. Although no one could hear the battle cries and didn't know who was fighting, the demon race and the demon race knew that the demon race and the demon race had a clear understanding of who was fighting. However, the Devil Emperor, Demon Commander Dark Knight, and the others all understood that the Devil race's camp must have been attacked, and the attackers' attacks were very fierce. Only the Emperor and the Imperial Tutor could guess the identity of the attacker. Demon Commander Dark Knight thought for a while, and immediately flew to the front of the ancient Demon Emperor. "Your Majesty, our camp is under attack. Please stay here, and I am willing to lead the troops back to help." The ancient Demon Emperor looked at the mighty demon race army and saw countless demon race soldiers crazily attacking the North City Gate. He frowned and thought for a while. After a while, he ordered in a dignified tone, "No need. Order all troops to stop attacking and return to our camp immediately. This must be Long Xuanquan's plan. If I am not wrong, the ones attacking our camp are most likely the demon race and the water race's army. After all, we are attacking Zhongzhou City with all our strength, and have already suspended the plan to attack the demon race and the water race. Long Xuanquan is unwilling to admit defeat, and will definitely try to resist. Of course, he will ask the water race and the demon race for reinforcements. After hearing the ancient demon emperor's words, Demon Commander Dark Knight didn't refute. He nodded silently and cupped his hands. Then, Demon Commander Dark Knight passed down the order and ordered all the demon race soldiers to stop attacking. The demon race soldiers were well trained and treated the demon emperor like a god. Their efficiency in carrying out orders was also very high. In just a short 15 minutes, the demon race army of more than 3 million retreated like the tide. Outside the North City Gate, there were only white bones and hundreds of thousands of broken bones left on the ground. Not long after, the demon race army of millions left Zhongzhou City, under the leadership of the ancient demon emperor, and rushed back to the demon race's camp. This tragic battle came to an abrupt end at this point. The millions of soldiers who were guarding the city heaved a sigh of relief as they watched the demon race army leave quickly. The emperor, the imperial tutor, and several commanders stood side by side on the city wall. They looked at the night sky in the north with worried expressions. The demon emperor is indeed calm. To think that he would make a prompt decision to retreat and return to the main camp. What a pity. If the devil emperor were here, we would be able to hold on for a few more days. Take advantage of this opportunity to attack the reinforcements of the demon race's camp. We will definitely achieve glorious results. Not only that, if Demon Emperor didn't retreat in time, our reinforcements would probably break through the demon camp and bring a heavy loss to the demon camp. Everyone whispered to each other, feeling pity for this. By now, the commanders had already guessed the identity of the reinforcements. At such a critical moment, who else could send reinforcements to the Central Plains other than the Monster Clan and the Water Clan? The Imperial Tutor hurriedly took out a communication jade slip and quickly sent out the news that the demon army had retreated and the demon emperor had returned to defend the demon camp. He believed that the demon emperor and golden dragon emperor would know what to do after receiving the message. Time passed quickly, and an hour quickly passed. North of the Central Plains city, in the demon race's camp thousands of miles away, the monstrous magic light gradually dimmed and dissipated. By the time the demon emperor led the army back to the camp, the battle had already ended, and the attackers had already retreated. The demon race's camp, which was hundreds of miles in radius, was only left with pits and huge cracks, as well as corpses that covered the ground. Most of the corpses belonged to the demon race's soldiers, numbering more than 500,000. However, a quarter of the corpses belonged to the Water Clan and the Monster Clan. Their racial characteristics were very obvious. Demon Commander Dark Knight checked the situation of the camp. After investigating the results, he quickly reported it to the Demon Emperor. The Demon Emperor was sitting in the Demon Palace. After hearing Demon Commander Dark Knight's report, he immediately frowned. Sure enough, it's the Monster Clan and the Water Clan. These damned bastards. After this emperor has dealt with the humans, I will take care of them. Dark Knight passed down the order. The entire army will rest for 3 days and conserve energy. In addition, strengthen the defense of our camp. We can't let the Water Clan and the Monster Clan have another chance to launch a sneak attack. Demon Commander Dark Knight bowed and said yes, then turned and left the Demon Palace. In the next 2 days, Central Continent City was calm and peaceful. The demon race's army seemed to have learned their lesson. They no longer rashly sent troops to attack Central Continent City. They had been holed up in the demon race's camp to recuperate. In Central Continent City, the human soldiers also took the opportunity to rest and recuperate. They repaired the city walls and the buildings in the city, strengthening their defenses. On the evening of the second day, 2 esteemed guests from afar entered Central Continent City. The imperial tutor led a large group of imperial guards to personally welcome the two esteemed guests and led them into the city lord's mansion. In the guest hall, the emperor sat at the head, and the imperial tutor stood at the side. On the left side of the head was a tall middle-aged man. He wore a long robe with golden scales and a golden crown on his head. His face and expression were very dignified. This person was the leader of the monster clan of the West Wilderness, the Heavenly Net Monster Emperor. On the right side of the head was a tall and sturdy Water Clan man. This person wore a golden robe with a flying phoenix dragon pattern and a luxurious 9-star crown on his head. His square face was upright and dignified, and there was a golden dragon horn on his forehead. He was the leader of the East Seas Water Clan, the famous Golden Dragon Emperor. Obviously, the three supreme beings of the three races had met here to form an alliance. In addition to the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and the Golden Dragon Emperor, there were also a few human commanders in the hall. They were Long Yunxiao, Yun Zhongqi and Bailey Divine Doctor. After everyone greeted each other, they exchanged a few pleasantries and began to talk about business. The emperor stood up with a solemn expression and bowed to the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and the Golden Dragon Emperor. He said in a sincere tone, "Demon Emperor, Dragon Emperor, thank you for coming to our aid at the critical moment. You attacked the demon race's camp directly and resolved the crisis of Central Continent City. You also solved this emperor's urgent situation." The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and the Golden Dragon Emperor nodded slightly, revealing a faint smile. "As early as 2 months ago, Your Majesty sent a message asking for our support. We came too late, Your Majesty, please forgive us. As the saying goes, it is better to come at the right time than to come early. We led the army overnight and just happened to see the Demon Emperor attacking Central Continent City. We suddenly had the idea to take the risk and attack the demon race's camp. Emperor may laugh at us, but before we launched the attack, we didn't have much confidence. That's right. After all, we came a long way and only brought 3 million soldiers. We didn't dare to fight the demon race's army of 10 million. We didn't expect that the Demon Emperor would lead the elite forces to attack Central Continent City, and the demon race's camp was defenseless. That was why we had the opportunity." The Emperor cupped his hands and bowed to the two, and said with a gratified smile, "This Emperor is already very grateful for the two of you coming to our aid at the critical moment." The Water Clan and the demon race's army of several million had traveled for 2 months to reach Central Continent City. They must be tired and slack off. Chapter 1435. The Celestial Emperor had good intentions. Outside of Central State City, other than the wasteland, there were only mountains, so there was a lack of food and fodder. Of course, the millions of spirit creatures and waterkind warriors were not suitable to be stationed outside the city. Only by entering Central Continent City would the two clans' armies be able to rest and reorganize in peace, conserving their strength. However, the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and the Golden Dragon Emperor both waved their hands and refused. "Thank you for your kind intentions, Emperor, but I can only accept it. Monarch, once our soldiers enter Central Continent City, they will be able to prepare for war and recuperate. But if that's the case, apart from increasing the number of soldiers in our army, there's no point in us coming to the Central Province." When the Demon Emperor and Golden Dragon Emperor refused, the Emperor immediately guessed their intentions, and a meaningful smile appeared on his face. "The two of you are unwilling to lead the army into the city. There must be other reasons and plans, right? If I'm not wrong, you want to be stationed outside the city and pin down the Devil Army?" The Demon Emperor and Golden Dragon Emperor both nodded in unison upon hearing this. "That's right, the Celestial Emperor is indeed wise. If our army enters Central State City, the armies of the three clans will all be concentrated in the city, and the demon race will be able to attack Central State City with all their strength. As long as Central State City is breached, the demon clan will obtain a complete victory. They will definitely be able to dominate the Central State, and no one will be able to stop them. The armies of our two races will set up camps 1,500 kilometers to the left and right of the Devil race's main camp. This way, we will be able to contain and attack the devil race from both sides. Once the demon race attacks Central State City, we will attack the demon race's main camp with all our strength, forcing the demon emperor to retreat." Hearing the monster emperor and golden dragon emperor's words, the emperor smiled and nodded. "The two of you have thought it through thoroughly. This is indeed a good plan. It will definitely restrain the demon race, preventing them from attacking Central Continent City with all their strength." The demons were far away from the northern desert. They had to end the battle quickly and not drag it out for too long. As long as we can hold on for 3 to 5 months, the demon army's offensive will naturally collapse. However, I am a little worried. If the demon army attacks the camps of the Water Clan or the Monster Clan, how do you two deal with it? The demon emperor and golden dragon emperor had already reached a consensus, and after exchanging a smile with one another, they said in unison, "Our emperor, only then will we be able to oppose the devilish army. As long as the demons attack one of our sides, the other two sides will send their armies to attack the demon camp or attack the demon army in a pincer attack. This will solve all the problems." The decisive battle in Central State City was not only related to the fate of the human race, but also related to the fate of the monster race and the water race. The human race was only the devil race's first target. Once the demon clan defeated the human clan and occupied the central continent, the next step would be to exterminate the water clan and the monster clan. The relationship between our three clans is one of mutual dependence. No one can stay out of this. The demon emperor and golden dragon emperor nodded in agreement. He slowly stood up. His eyes sparkled as he said in a low and solemn tone, "What a good without the lips, the teeth will be cold." Well said. That was right. The devil clan was full of ambition. They wanted to dominate the Tianxian land and enslave all the races in the world. This was a war that concerned the fate of the entire continent. No one could stay out of it. We must work together and unite as one in order to overcome this crisis and repel the demons. The demon emperor and golden dragon emperor also hurriedly rose to their feet before cupping their fists in salute. "Let's fight the devilish army to the death." The 3 Heavens Supremes had reached a consensus, their wills as strong as an impregnable fortress. Next, the three of them had a long secret discussion about their next move. Late at night, the demon emperor and golden dragon emperor bid farewell and returned to their respective camps. Very quickly 5 days had passed. On the morning of the 6th day, at the first glimmer of dawn, the great army of the demon clan launched their attack again. After 5 days of rest, the great army of the demon clan had rested and nurtured their strength. Their morale was even higher, and their attacks were even more ferocious. Moreover, the demon emperor seemed to have guessed the strategy and plan of the three clans. He knew that the three clans would work together to restrain the demon clan and stall for time. Therefore, the great army of the demon clan had chosen to split into 2 groups. The first group was led by the demon emperor himself. A total of 3 million soldiers attacked Central State City with all their strength. The second group was led by Demon General Mingyi. A total of 3 million soldiers attacked the camp of the Water Clan with all their strength. The Golden Dragon Emperor had only brought 3,300,000 Water Clan soldiers to the central state. They were stationed 3,000 miles east of the Demon Clan's camp, in a towering mountain range. Even though those 3 million Water Race soldiers were all elites, they were still able to fight back. The Water Clan had always lived in the Eastern Sea and rarely moved on land. The 3 million Water Clan soldiers' fighting strength on land would be reduced, and many aspects would be affected and restricted. It was probably for this reason that the Demon Emperor decided to attack the Water Clan's camp. After the great army of the Demon Clan set out, the situation became very clear. 3 million soldiers attacking Central State City, 3 million attacking the Water Clan's camp, and 10 million guarding the Demon Clan's camp. To the Human Clan, the Yao Clan, and the Water Clan, this was an extremely troublesome problem. The Demon Emperor's decision was not a conspiracy, but a completely overt one. The Demon Clan held the advantage of having a large number of soldiers. They were definitely not afraid of fighting head-on. However, the soldiers of the three clans were unable to fight the demon clan head-on. When the sun rose, the great battle immediately began. Demon General Ming Yi led the 3 million soldiers and took the lead in attacking the Water Clan's camp. Not long after, the 3 million soldiers led by the Demon Emperor also killed their way to Central State City and attacked the northern city gate with all their strength. The Emperor, the Imperial Tutor, and the various commanders all rushed to the northern city gate and personally supervised the battle. Not long after the great battle began, the Water Clan's camp sent a message asking for reinforcements from the Yao clan and the Human clan. The Human clan soldiers of Central State City could not go out of the city to fight, so they naturally could not help the Water clan. After the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor received the message, he immediately led the 1 million soldiers to the Water Clan's camp. However, the Demon Emperor had already guessed this and made arrangements in advance. The 1 million Demon Clan soldiers charged out to intercept the Yao Clan's army. In this way, the Demon Clan's army split into 3 groups and attacked the camps of the 3 clans. The 3 clans' armies could barely fend for themselves and could not help each other. Understanding the situation, the Emperor, Heavenly Net Demon Emperor, and Golden Dragon Emperor were both furious and helpless. Unknowingly, 4 hours passed and it was almost noon. The Demon Clan army led by the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor was fighting fiercely with the 1 million Demon Clan soldiers in a majestic mountain range. Although the Demon Clan army fought bravely and wanted to break through the obstruction of the Demon Clan army and go to the Water Clan's camp, the Demon Clan army did not stop. But the Devil Race army stopped them regardless of everything. Millions of Devil Race soldiers rushed forward without regard for their own safety, firmly blocking the Yao Race army in the mountains. The two sides fought for 4 hours. The sky was dark and the earth was dark. Corpses were strewn all over the mountains. Blood dyed the mountains red and gathered at the foot of the mountains to form a red river of blood that surged. Chapter 1436. The Million Mo army was determined to die. Even if they had to perish together with the Yao army, they would not allow them to reinforce the Water Race camp. If this continued, both armies would be wiped out, or even completely wiped out. Heavenly Net Yao Emperor's heart was burning with worry. He tried to think of ways to break out, but they all ended in failure. He charged forward to kill the enemy without any regard for his own safety, but he was held back by several Mo experts. There was also the 300,000 Mo army. They formed an ancient Mo battle formation and attacked him together. Even though he had the strength of the primordial spirit realm, he was surrounded and could not change the situation. Outside the north gate of Central Continent City, the 3 million Mo army was attacking with all their might. Deafening battle cries, collisions, and explosions converged into a torrent of sound waves that spread across the land for thousands of miles. On the plains outside the city, the corpses of hundreds of thousands of Mo soldiers were piled up into a small mountain of blood. Dark red or purple Mo blood soaked the plains into a swamp. The ground was covered in blood-colored mud. The moat under the city gate was also blocked by a mountain of corpses. The Red River water surged out and flowed freely on the plains. The Mo army suffered heavy casualties, but their attacks were even more ferocious. Countless Mo soldiers were in a killing frenzy. They did not care about the cost to break through the city. The human soldiers guarding the city also suffered heavy casualties. There were countless soldiers dying at every moment. The human soldiers stationed in the city could only continue to reinforce. They relied on the defensive formation and the city walls to resist to the death. The Yao and humans were unable to reinforce the Water Race camp. The situation of the Water Race camp became worse and worse. A few days ago, the Water Race soldiers came here and built a large army camp in the mountains. They could not move on land. Their strength was greatly reduced. Also, they had only been stationed for a short period of time. They could only set up some basic defensive measures. They could not make the camp impenetrable. Facing the 3 million Mo army, the Water Race soldiers resisted to the death. Although the battle had already been going on for more than 4 hours, the Water Race camp had not been broken through. But the water race soldiers had suffered heavy casualties. More than 700,000 soldiers had sacrificed their lives. The defensive formation of the camp was constantly being torn apart, with holes appearing one after another. Countless devil race soldiers poured into the devil race's camp through the gap like a tide. The warriors of the water race fought bravely against the enemies and mended the gaps in the formation. They were barely holding on. If the war went on like this, the waterkind camp would be broken in 4 to 6 hours at most. By then, the waterkind camp would be destroyed, and the 3 million waterkind warriors would be crushed as well. Once the army of the water clan was destroyed, only the monster clan and the human clan were left. They would not be able to hold on for long, and would eventually be destroyed. In short, in the current war situation, a slight move could affect the entire situation. The Nephilim Emperor was cunning enough to analyze the situation thoroughly. His first move was to kill, which was why he was in such an unsolvable situation. The Celestial Emperor, the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor, and the Golden Dragon Emperor were all at their wits' end. It seemed that the situation was about to develop according to the Demon Emperor's plan. The plan of the alliance between the three races would soon be dismantled by the Devil race. It was at this moment that the palace in the depths of the monarch's residence suddenly lit up with golden light. A 10,000 feet tall golden light phantom appeared in the sky above the imperial palace, illuminating thousands of miles of land. The few god-tier masters and crown princes who stayed in the imperial palace were awakened by this earth-shattering phenomenon. They looked up at the sky and exclaimed, "It's Ji Tianxing! What kind of godly technique did he cultivate? Such an earth-shattering phenomenon, illuminating thousands of miles of land. It must be a peerless godly technique. This is great. Ji Tianxing has come out of seclusion at the right time." The army of the devil race has split into three, and is attacking the camps of the three races crazily. The situation is very critical. If Ji Tianxing were to make a move now, he might be able to turn the situation around. Ji Tianxing has already surpassed all the god-tier masters, and is in primordial soul supreme, who is on par with the celestial emperor. He is standing at the pinnacle of the continent. With his strength and means, he will definitely be able to resolve this crisis. Just as the god-tier masters and crown princes were discussing, a different scene was happening in the secret chamber of the imperial palace. Huff! Ji Tianxing exhaled a long breath of turbid air, and slowly retracted his hands that were forming hand seals, ending 20 months of bitter cultivation. These 20 months were not the longest time he had been in seclusion, but it was the time he had gained the most, and his strength had improved the most. After all, the palace master, Emperor Yi, and the other three had imparted their lifetime's worth of skills to him. His strength had reached the peak of the 4th level primordial soul realm, and was not far from the 5th level. He had also cultivated many secret techniques, and his combat strength had reached an immeasurable level. It was no exaggeration to say that his strength now stood at the pinnacle of the continent. He could even be ranked in the top 3, and look down on all the heroes in the world. When he ended his seclusion, he exuded a domineering aura that looked down on the world. Every move he made triggered the power of heaven and earth. This feeling of being close to a god made him feel as if the world was in his grasp, and he was invincible in the world. So, this is what it feels like to be in primordial soul supreme, and the peak of martial arts. If the palace master, Emperor Yi, and the other three hadn't imparted their lifetime's worth of skills to me, how long would I have to cultivate to reach such a level? I hope they can recuperate well in the imperial palace, and return to their peak in 100 years. During this period, leave the chaos of the demon race to me. I will definitely kill the ancient demon emperor, and wipe out all the demon race. Ji Tianxing murmured in his heart. He was grateful to the palace master, Emperor Yi, and the others from the bottom of his heart. He slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was as sharp as thunder and lightning, cutting through the darkness of the secret chamber. At that moment, the domineering aura that he exuded all retracted back into his body like the tide. His aura was extremely restrained, and he became like a mortal unperturbed. Apart from the powerful aura that came from the depths of his soul, Ordinary people could not tell his strength at all. He looked around and saw that the secret room was empty. He was the only one there. He immediately frowned. Where are the palace master, Emperor Yi, and the others? Could it be that they have exhausted their magic power and went into seclusion to recuperate? With that thought, he released a powerful divine sense that spread out in all directions and enveloped the entire imperial palace. After advancing to the primordial soul realm, his spirit evolved into a primordial soul. Naturally, the power of his spirit also became divine sense. It possessed even more powerful power, and its effects were also more powerful. When he released his divine sense, the world within a radius of 500 miles was enveloped. Every blade of grass, every tree, every grain of sand, and every rock in this area could not escape his probing and perception. However, he searched the entire imperial palace and did not detect the aura of the Emperor Lord and the other three. Strange, where did they go? Didn't the palace master say that they would recuperate in peace in the imperial palace after imparting their skills to me? Chapter 1437. Just as Ji Tianxing was filled with doubts, and his expression was unreadable, a mysterious gem in the corner of the secret room lit up with a dense white light and condensed into a screen of light. A figure in a purple robe with snow-white hair appeared on the screen of light. It was Gu Daoxian, the academy master. The headmaster stared at him calmly. His eyes were kind, and the corner of his lips curled into a comforting smile. Tianxing, by the time you see this, my 3 junior brothers and junior sisters will have already left this world, Tianxing said. The academy master's voice sounded. His tone was calm and serene, without a hint of sadness or regret. There seemed to be a hint of relief in his voice. Ji Tianxing was stunned. He stared at the screen of light, and his face turned pale. What? You are all? The academy master's voice sounded again on the screen of light. No need to be sad or surprised. This is an outcome that was destined long ago. Please forgive me for deceiving you. We used the Great Enlightenment technique and passed on our lifetime's worth of skills to you. The price is, we will all vanish into thin air. However, we have no regrets. We have a clear conscience. I also believe that the current you is already standing proudly at the top of the continent. You are qualified to fight against the Demon Emperor, and even kill him. That's all we can do to help you. Of course, this may not be called help. It may be repaying a debt of gratitude. In short, I leave the chaos of the demon race to you. The fate of the Tianxian continent is also up to you to decide. If fate wills it, we will meet again in the next life. When the time comes, I hope all the mysteries will be solved. As the academy master's voice slowly dissipated, the blazing white screen of light also gradually faded. The mysterious gem became ordinary and lost the effect of the image. During this process, Ji Tianxing could only look at the screen of light and listen to the academy master's last words. After all, that was only an image that the academy master had set up beforehand. He could only look at it but not talk to it. Ji Tianxing finally understood everything. However, his body froze on the spot. His heart was heavy and his face was ugly. He had hundreds of regrets and thousands of hatred in his heart, but he could only suppress them. He seemed to have lost his soul and revealed a bitter smile of self-mockery. He murmured in a sorrowful tone, "Ha ha ha. I should have thought of it. How could there be such a miraculous thing in the world? How is it possible for you to return to your peak after 100 years of recuperation? However, why are you doing this? Why are you sacrificing your lives to help me break through to the primordial spirit realm? What have I done to deserve such treatment from you?" He didn't blame the manor head and the other 3 for making the decision on their own, but his heart was filled with regret and guilt. The palace lord, Ren Huangyi, and the others had sacrificed their lives to help him. To him, this was an enormous pressure and responsibility. He silently swore that he would do everything in his power to kill the ancient fiend emperor and avenge the mansion master and the others. After a long time, he finally calmed down and muttered in a low voice, "I never expected that the parting would come so suddenly, and it was so sudden that I was unable to bid farewell to all of you. But I will never let your sacrifice be in vain. Tens of billions of human beings will remember you forever." With that, he stood upright and looked towards the north with a burning gaze, his entire body bursting with killing intent. Of course, aside from these matters, he also had a regret in his heart. He had long wanted to ask the palace lord where he had settled Yun Yao, after bringing Yun Yao to Shimu continent. Unfortunately, he had only met the palace lord a few times before. Every time they met, it was a matter of life and death, and he had never had the chance to ask this question. Furthermore, the chaos of the demons had yet to be resolved, and whether or not he could survive was still unknown. His chances of going to Shimu continent were even slimmer. Now that he had finally mastered the divine art, he had the chance and qualifications to ask this question. However, the palace lord had long since disappeared. Ji Tianxing could only suppress this regret in his heart and slowly resolve it in the future. His top priority now was to quickly understand the situation in Zhongzhou, north gate of Zhongzhou city. Millions of human soldiers were doing their best to resist the demon army's attack. The battle was in full swing, and the defensive array shone with a dazzling brilliance. All sorts of earth-shattering noises could be heard. Batch after batch of heavily injured human soldiers were carried out of the array. Corpses after corpses of human soldiers were carried down the towering city walls and sent to the main camp in the city. The empty positions were quickly filled by batches of human soldiers. Outside the city walls, millions of skeletons were piled up into mountains as they madly charged towards the north gate and the tall city walls. More than 2 million demons spread out across the vast land, using their battle array to unleash powerful attacks. Magical beasts as large as mountains, specters, and evil souls were flying in the air above the battlefield. The battle had reached its most desperate moment. More than 800,000 human soldiers had died, while hundreds of thousands of demons had died. High in the sky, the emperor wielded the human emperor's sword and led several commanders to attack the demon emperor. The ancient demon emperor relied on the Taiyan soul-severing ruler's formidable power to face many powerhouses alone. He did not seem to be at a disadvantage, and instead, he had beaten everyone black and blue. Suddenly, a beam of spiritual light flew from the city gates and landed in the imperial tutor's hand. The imperial tutor caught the spiritual light and saw that it was a communication jade slip. He hurriedly used his divine soul to read the message in it. After reading it, his expression immediately changed. His blood-stained face revealed a look of deep surprise. "Emperor, Tianxing has come out of seclusion." The imperial tutor looked at the emperor with glowing eyes and transmitted the message. Perhaps because he was too excited, his voice was trembling. The emperor was fighting fiercely with the demon emperor. His golden robe and cape were torn, and he was covered in blood, but he did not care. When he suddenly heard this news, his cold and serious expression immediately relaxed. "We can still hold on for 2 more hours. Tell him to quickly reinforce the water tribe camp." The emperor made a prompt decision and gave the order to the imperial preceptor through telepathy. The imperial tutor hurriedly obeyed and sent the jade slip back. About 100 breaths later, he saw a dazzling golden light streaking across the sky above Zhongzhou city, like a shooting star. That golden shooting star flew out of Zhongzhou city in the blink of an eye and headed toward the water tribe camp in the northeast direction. Seeing this, the emperor and the imperial tutor heaved a sigh of relief. They murmured to themselves, "Tianxing, Tianxing, whether the water tribe camp can be saved and whether the situation can be reversed, it all depends on you." At the same time, the ancient demon emperor also sensed that something was wrong. He waved the Taiyan soul-severing ruler and unleashed a barrage of attacks, forcing the emperor and the commanders to retreat. Then he turned around and was about to fly away. Of course, the emperor knew that the demon emperor wanted to rush to the water tribe camp to check on the situation. But how could he let the demon emperor do as he wished? He waved the emperor's sword and charged toward the demon emperor. He ordered in a deep voice, "Everyone attack with all your might. We must stall the demon emperor no matter what." Chapter 1438. Ji Tianxing wanted to kill the ancient demonic emperor immediately. However, he knew that the ancient demonic emperor had the Taiyan soul-severing ruler, and could not be defeated easily. Now that the demonic army had split into 3 groups and attacked the camps of the 3 races, the situation was very dangerous. At this critical moment, he could only suppress his anger and killing intent and focus on the big picture. He had to save the Sea Tribe camp first. He used his fastest speed and shot across the sky like a shooting star. In just a few seconds, he arrived above the mountains thousands of miles away. He was still 150 miles away, but he could already see the situation clearly. The Sea Tribe camp occupied an area of 400 miles and was surrounded by 5 mountains with a vast valley in the middle. The 5 mountains were covered by a defensive array, and the entire Sea Tribe camp was covered by several 7-colored light barriers. More than 1 million Sea Tribe soldiers lined up outside the camp and relied on the defensive array to resist the attacks of the demonic army. However, the Sea Tribe camp was in a perilous situation. The few defensive formations were broken and torn apart over and over again. Countless warriors were killed every single moment, especially the mountain in the southwest. The defensive array was full of cracks and was in imminent danger. Half of the mountain had been turned into ruins. In a short while, that array would completely collapse and become a huge gap. In the mountains surrounding the campsite, the entire area within a radius of a few hundred miles was covered in darkness. It was an army of more than 2 million demons. When they gathered together, it was like a black sea. The 2 sides were fighting fiercely, and the scene was bloody and tragic. The mountains and the ground were dyed red with blood. The blood of the soldiers on both sides gathered in the valley to form rivers and blood lakes. The sky was filled with black clouds, and demonic chi filled the sky. The blood chi and souls of the millions of corpses condensed into a bloody mist that flowed slowly in the sky. Ji Tianxing could even see a few blood gods clones that had just reached the soul tempering stage, not long ago greedily devouring the blood chi and souls. He raised his head to look at the sky and saw the figures of a few powerhouses fighting endlessly. The Golden Dragon Emperor, dressed in a golden robe and covered in golden scales, was fighting 6 powerful demonic army soldiers alone. Among them was demonic commander Dark Knight, who was covered in 9 underworld armor, King of Nightmares, who was attached to the demonic god scepter, and 4 soul tempering stage demonic army soldiers. No matter how strong the Golden Dragon Emperor was, he could easily injure any one of them. However, the 6 powerhouses didn't want to kill the Golden Dragon Emperor. They only wanted to keep him entangled, not giving him a chance to escape. The Golden Dragon Emperor couldn't help but roar with fury as he looked on helplessly as countless Water Tribe soldiers were slaughtered by the devilish army. At this time, Ji Tianxing finally arrived at the battlefield. After seeing the situation clearly, he flew to the southwest of the camp without hesitation and used a secret technique to attack the demon army below. Meteor shower. He stepped high into the sky, and his clothes fluttered about. Flames that overflowed into the heavens lit up, and an aura that could destroy the world erupted. Dense flames appeared in the distant sky, falling down like meteors. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of fiery lights pierced through the demonic clouds that covered the sky and poured onto the ground like a torrential downpour. Those were more than 30,000 huge fireballs. They were formed by the violent heavenly flames and possessed the terrifying power to incinerate everything. Suddenly, the area within a radius of a few hundred kilometers was illuminated by the fiery lights. Terrifying heat and air waves dispersed the blood mist and black clouds that filled the sky. Over 1 million warriors of the Demon Clan and the Water Clan all sensed the apocalyptic aura. They all raised their heads to look at the sky, showing an incomparably frightened face. Boom, 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 boom. Before the demon soldiers could react, the meteor shower that blotted out the sky and covered the earth drowned the area within a radius of 100 kilometers. A deafening sound burst out, reverberating endlessly in the sky. The mountains and earth within a radius of a few hundred kilometers shook violently, and huge cracks appeared. The 500,000 demon soldiers that were attacking the defensive formation were swallowed by the boundless sea of flames. They struggled in the sea of flames, roaring and letting out heart-wrenching screams. However, all of this came to an abrupt end and gradually dissipated. After 10 breaths, the 500,000 demon soldiers were burned to ashes. They were all dead. The mountains and earth within a radius of 100 kilometers were also burned into a lake of magma, surging with scarlet flames. Ji Tianxing used a secret technique to cleanly and neatly kill the 500,000 demon soldiers, which immediately stunned everyone. Whether it was the demon soldiers or the water tribe soldiers, all of them were dumbstruck as they looked at the sky and let out frightened and shocked cries. The Golden Dragon Emperor, Demon Commander Dark Knight, and the others who were fighting were also shocked by this earth-shattering movement. Everyone stopped fighting and looked at Ji Tianxing in shock. They all had different expressions on their faces. The Golden Dragon Emperor was full of excitement and laughed heartily. Demon Commander Dark Knight and the other demon experts were as if their parents had died, and their bodies were cold. Ji Tianxing stood proudly in the sky, looking down at the sea of fire. He murmured to himself with an expressionless face, "The blood feud of the past, the grudges of the past, it's time to end it. The road of revenge has just begun. Only by slaughtering all the demons in the world can I be worthy of those who died." After saying that, he opened the world in the sword and called out the little black dragon, Qianyu, Ancestor Sanju, the Golden Mountain King, and the others. He pointed at the battlefield below and ordered expressionlessly, "Kill! Kill all of the demons." Ancestor Sanju, the Golden Mountain King, and the others immediately obeyed and used earth-shattering techniques to kill the demon army. Ji Tianxing did not waste any time and rushed to the demon army not far away, using his secret technique to start the massacre. Great Tao Imperfection, Pure Heart, 3 Pure Qi, Mysterious Heaven Demon Suppression. He formed a seal with both hands, forming a mysterious hand seal. His whole body bloomed with dazzling golden light, turning him into a golden light giant that was 30 meters tall, as sacred and dignified as a god. When he chanted the incantation and used the pure heart demon suppression art, his whole body erupted with a divine golden light that covered the sky and swept in all directions. Boom! The dazzling divine golden light exploded like a mushroom cloud, enveloping an area of 50 kilometers. At least 300,000 demon soldiers were drowned in the divine golden light. In that moment, he seemed to have become the golden sun in the sky, illuminating the world. The area of 50 kilometers was filled with demon soldiers, blood energy, and demonic clouds. It was truly a land of evil and filth. However, under the illumination of his divine sun, all evil was dispelled. The bodies of the 300,000 demon soldiers quickly eroded, shattering into thousands of pieces that scattered like sand. High in the sky, thousands of golden lotuses bloomed and fell like a downpour. On the ground, green sprouts sprouted from the dark brown desolate mountain range, showing signs of vitality. Such a miraculous scene was like a miracle. Chapter 1439. After Ji Tianxing appeared, he only used 2 secret techniques to kill more than 800,000 demon soldiers. The number of the demon army was reduced by a third. The morale of the demon army was hit hard. Many of the soldiers were terrified. They stopped moving forward and did not dare to attack again. There were also many demon soldiers who stopped attacking the water tribe camp. Instead, they joined forces to attack him. Near the southeast mountain, almost 400,000 demon soldiers formed a battle formation. They released hundreds of light pillars that shot towards him like a rain of arrows. The hundreds of dark red light beams were very powerful. They were comparable to the attack of an immortal soul stage elder. However, Ji Tianxing did not care. He did not use his golden wings. He only used his mana shield to protect himself. Bam bam bam. The hundreds of light beams hit him. There was a series of dull sounds that reverberated in the sky. Ji Tianxing was covered by the light beams. However, he was unharmed. In the blink of an eye, he rushed out of the light beams. Star-shattering fist. With a cold expression, he roared and punched at the 400,000 devilish soldiers. Boom boom. 2 fist shadows that were as huge as mountains fell from the sky with destructive power. They hit the demon battle formation, and there were 2 earth-shattering sounds. Instantly, the mountains and the ground within 100 miles were smashed into ruins by the star-shattering fist. A huge crater appeared. Dense cracks extended all around the huge pit, and a torrential cloud of dust burst out. The mountains and the ground within a few hundred miles were shaken by the violent impact. The fate of the 400,000 demon soldiers was self-evident. They could not resist at all. They were smashed into pieces by the star-shattering fist. Blood splattered everywhere and scattered in the huge crater. After a dozen breaths, the earth-shattering sound gradually disappeared. Another 400,000 demon soldiers were killed. There were only about 1,600,000 left. The situation was reversed. The scales of victory were tilted towards the water tribe. The 1 million demon soldiers that survived were scared out of their wits by Ji Tianxing. Their expressions and eyes were filled with fear and shock. None of them dared to attack the Waterkind camp again. They all stepped back in fear, wanting to stay away from Ji Tianxing. In the Waterkind camp, over 2 million Waterkind warriors cheered out in high spirits. Not long ago, they were besieged by the demon race's army, and the situation was precarious. Their hearts were heavy and filled with despair. However, after Ji Tianxing arrived, he only used 3 secret techniques to unleash a destructive power that could destroy the heavens and earth, slaughtering 1,200,000 devils. This was simply an unbelievable miracle. He was the peerless god of slaughter. All the Waterkind warriors saw the hope of victory. How could they not be excited? High up in the sky, Demon Commander Dark Knight, Nightmare, and several other demon race powerhouses were still attacking the Golden Dragon Emperor with all their might. Seeing the situation of the battlefield below, Demon Marshal Dark Knight and Nightmare both turned pale with fright. Stormy waves rose in their hearts. They had all fought Ji Tianxing before, so they understood Ji Tianxing's strength. It was precisely because of this that they felt the most shock and disbelief. Damn it! 2 months ago, that little bastard was still in the soul-refining realm. How did he become so powerful now? This is impossible. How did his strength increase so much in just 2 months? No, we must stop him. We must not let him slaughter our army again. Demon Marshal Dark Knight and Nightmare exchanged a few words before giving up on attacking the Golden Dragon Emperor. They went all out to attack Ji Tianxing. Whoosh! With a flash of black light, the two of them attacked Ji Tianxing from the sky, launching a pincer attack from the left and right. Nether Assault. Demon Marshal Dark Knight's whole body emitted a cold black light. He brandished his black broadsword and stabbed out a pitch-black sword light at Ji Tianxing with all his strength. That pitch-black sword light was condensed from the incomparably pure netherworld chi. It contained a powerful death energy that specialized in restraining the spirit. Nightmare also controlled the Demon God Scepter and released the power of the Demon God Scepter. It condensed 3 10-meter-long blood-colored sword lights and fiercely slashed at Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing, who was casting spells to slaughter the demon army below, seemed to be unprepared for the attack of Demon Marshal Dark Knight and Nightmare. Seeing this scene, the Golden Dragon Emperor and countless soldiers of the Water Tribe all showed worried looks and shouted one after another, reminding Ji Tianxing to be careful. However, just as the Nether Sword Light and the blood-colored sword light were about to hit Ji Tianxing, he suddenly turned around and looked at Demon Marshal Dark Knight and Nightmare with a sneer on his face. I've been waiting for you for a long time. There was no doubt that after slaughtering more than 1.2 million demon army, he expected that Demon Marshal Dark Knight and Nightmare would not be able to hold back and launch a sneak attack. Therefore, he had long been prepared. Draw your sword. With a cold shout, Ji Tianxing instantly pulled out the Sword of Burial of Heaven and brandished a 100-meter-long golden sword light to meet the Nether Sword Light and the blood-colored sword light head-on. Boom! Amidst the deafening collision, the pitch-black Nether Sword Light and the dark red blood-colored sword light were cut into pieces on the spot and splashed in the sky. The power of the golden sword light was not reduced in the slightest as it instantly cut through the sky and hit Demon Marshal Dark Knight. Crack! With a crisp sound, a huge gap was cut open on the black armor worn by Demon Marshal Dark Knight, and dense cracks appeared on it. The violent and unparalleled force of impact sent it flying back, and it fell 10 miles away. Dark purple demon blood spurted out from the cracks in the armor and sprinkled in the sky. Nightmare was dumbfounded on the spot and exclaimed in shock. How is this possible? You actually destroyed the 9 underworld armor. Others might not know, but it was very clear that the 9 underworld armor worn by Demon Marshal Dark Knight was a primordial spirit armor, refined over 1,000 years, by gathering the 9 underworld's chi and cold iron. It was with this 9 underworld armor that Demon Marshal Dark Knight had dominated the continent for 1,000 years, and had almost never been defeated. But now, Ji Tianxing had destroyed the 9 underworld armor with just one slash. What kind of terrifying strength was this? After Ji Tianxing sent Demon Marshal Dark Knight flying with one slash, he charged towards Nightmare without hesitation, and sneered with a sinister face. What's the big deal about destroying the 9 underworld armor? I also want to destroy the demon god scepter. Stab! With a furious roar, he thrust his sword with all his might. A cold light bloomed and crossed 10 miles in the sky in an instant, hitting the demon god scepter hard. Bang! Nightmare could not dodge in time, and was stabbed by the cold light on the spot, producing a dull and loud sound. A dazzling cold light exploded in the sky like a huge mushroom cloud rising into the sky. The demon god scepter was blown away on the spot, and a few cracks appeared on the pitch-black scepter. Nightmare's consciousness was also blurred by the impact, and he could only be blown away with the demon god scepter, smashing into the sky 10 miles away. Ji Tianxing took the opportunity to chase after him. He used the divine concealment step to cross the sky, and caught up with Nightmare with a whoosh. Chapter 1440. Ji Tianxing's sword was simple and unadorned, but it contained the concept of returning to one's natural state. He did not slash out sword light, but used the sword of burial of heaven to directly slash at the demon god scepter. The demon god scepter was, after all, a primordial soul-level magic treasure that had been passed down for 10,000 years. Its power and defense were very strong. Only when the sword of burial of heaven collided with the demon god scepter could the scepter be completely broken and destroyed. In the next moment, the pitch-black and cold sword of burial of heaven fiercely slashed at the demon god scepter. With a crisp crack, the mysterious and ancient demon god scepter was cut in half at the waist. The scepter was broken into 2 pieces, and its surface was covered with dense cracks as it flew out. The sacred item of the demon race, the demon god scepter that represented the authority of the demon emperor, was destroyed just like that. The 2 pieces of the scepter fell from the sky, and soon completely collapsed, turning into fragments that filled the sky. A shadowy and illusory mass of black gas flew out from the countless fragments, and fled towards the north in panic. That was the Nightmare. It was not a physical object, and did not have a body of flesh and blood. It could only attach itself to the demon god scepter, or parasitize the dreams of others. Now that the demon god scepter was destroyed, its strength was greatly reduced, and it also lost its powerful protection. In its panic, it subconsciously turned around and fled, only wanting to immediately escape back to the demon race's camp. But Ji Tianxing came to aid the water race's camp not only to kill the demon race's army, but also to kill it and demon commander Dark Knight. How could he let it escape? Whoosh! With a flash of golden light, Ji Tianxing directly teleported 15 kilometers, blocking the Nightmare's path. He waved the sword of burial of heaven in his hand, and ruthlessly slashed at the Nightmare. Bam! The Nightmare was slashed by the sword of burial of heaven on the spot, and exploded into thousands of wisps of black gas, scattering in all directions. However, those thousands of wisps of black gas quickly gathered again, condensing into a mass of black fog. Kakik! Ji Tianxing, you want to kill me? Stop dreaming. I am immortal and indestructible. Nightmares were special demonic creatures. They were not made of flesh and blood, nor were they made of spiritual energy. They could only be killed by special means. To ordinary powerhouses, it was practically indestructible. Unfortunately, it encountered Ji Tianxing, and was destined to meet a tragic end. Indestructible? Are you worthy? Ji Tianxing snorted contemptuously. He suddenly raised his left arm, and shot out a huge golden palm that blotted out the sky. Heaven-seizing palm. In the blink of an eye, the golden palm wrapped around the incubus and dragged it back to Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing activated the power of the heaven-mending orb and released a sacred white light that enveloped the nightmare. Shua! Under the purification of the holy white light, the nightmare was like snow under the scorching sun, melting in the blink of an eye. Ordinary experts could not kill it, but Ji Tianxing could use the heaven-mending orb to completely destroy it. After dealing with the nightmare, Ji Tianxing raised his head and looked at the sky in front of him, looking for the figure of Demon General Dark Knight. Demon General Dark Knight had already treated his injuries and was about to rescue the incubus. Seeing that the situation was not good, he turned into a black stream of light and turned to fly toward the north. Before escaping, he did not forget to give a cold shout and order to the demon army. Retreat, quickly return to the camp. You're about to die, and you still want to escape? Ji Tianxing snorted coldly, and his figure flashed and teleported dozens of miles away. He appeared in front of Demon General Dark Knight out of thin air, holding the sword of burial of heaven in his hand, and stopped Demon General Dark Knight. Demon General Dark Knight, do you still remember when I escaped from the northern desert, and you chased me to the Mangu mountain range? He looked at Demon General Dark Knight with a cold expression, and his eyes were surging with an icy cold light. Demon General Dark Knight gripped the black broadsword tightly and stared at him with a gloomy gaze, silent and not saying a word. Ji Tianxing snorted coldly. Back then, if I wasn't lucky enough and Emperor Yi repelled you in time, I'm afraid I would have been killed by you long ago. From that day on, I made up my mind to kill you with my own hands and take revenge. And today is the day of your death. 2 years of enduring humiliation and painstaking cultivation were all for this day, to wash away the humiliation and hatred from back then. Ji Tianxing's entire body erupted with soaring killing intent, and his eyes were extremely cold. As his voice fell, he waved the sword of burial of heaven in his hand, and a crescent sword light that was thousands of feet long swept out. Demon General Dark Knight die. As his angry shout sounded, the crescent sword light that was thousands of feet long instantly drowned Demon General Dark Knight's figure. Demon General Dark Knight revealed a look of horror and despair, and hurriedly unleashed all of his power to condense a magical power shield. Moreover, he desperately waved the black sword, slashing out sword light that filled the sky to block Ji Tianxing's attack. But it was all in vain. Kaboom! With a thunderous sound, the sword light and the black light shield that filled the sky were cut into countless pieces. Without the protection of the 9 underworld armor, Demon General Dark Knight was also cut in half by the crescent sword light, and his body was split into 2. Swoosh! A dark purple soul flew out of the corpse. It actually did not turn around to escape. Instead, it swelled violently, brewing an incomparably terrifying aura. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing immediately frowned and revealed a look of surprise. You actually want to self-destruct? You want to die with me? Demon General Dark Knight, you're too naive. Obviously, Demon General Dark Knight knew that it would be difficult to escape, and that he would die without a doubt, so he decisively self-destructed. He wanted to die with Ji Tianxing, and kill countless Water Clan soldiers along the way. Only in this way would his sacrifice be worth it. However, he underestimated Ji Tianxing's strength. Even more so, it could not imagine how powerful Ji Tianxing's divine abilities were. Great Freedom Soul Destruction / Ji Tianxing shouted coldly with an expressionless face. He waved the burial of heaven and slashed out a hidden and invisible sword light, attacking Demon General Dark Knight's soul. The invisible and huge sword light contained a very terrifying power that specialized in destroying soul power. Before Demon General Dark Knight's soul could self-destruct, it was hit by the soul destruction / Boom! With a dull bang, Demon General Dark Knight's soul collapsed on the spot. It was blasted into pieces by the soul destruction / and scattered in the sky. Demon General Dark Knight fell, and was completely obliterated. Ji Tianxing activated the power of the heaven-mending orb again, and waved his hand to release a sacred white light that enveloped the fragments in the sky. The fragments of Demon General Dark Knight's soul were quickly devoured by the heaven-mending orb. On the battlefield below, countless soldiers of the Demon Clan and the Water Clan witnessed Ji Tianxing kill Nightmare and Demon General Dark Knight with their own eyes. Everyone revealed an incredulous expression and was filled with shock. No one could imagine that the incomparably powerful Demon General Dark Knight and Nightmare would be so weak in front of Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing only used a few moves and killed two powerhouses in a short 20 breaths of time. What kind of terrifying strength was this? The Water Clan soldiers became more and more spirited, their morale soaring as they let out earth-shattering cheers. More than 1 million Demon Clan soldiers were frightened to the extreme. They retreated in a sorry state like a black tide, quickly retreating to the north. Chapter 1441. The crisis in the Water Tribe camp was resolved. More than 1 million Devil Race soldiers retreated back to the Devil Race's main camp in a panic. The Water Race soldiers took advantage of the situation to pursue and killing batch after batch of the Devil Race army. The Little Black Dragon, Qianyu, the Golden Mountain King, and Forefather Trialt charged at the forefront and massacred the demons. Of course, Ji Tianxing wouldn't let the Devil Race's army escape back to the Devil Race's camp. He also began his pursuit, unleashing devastating attacks to vent his fury on the demon army. Meteor shower, star-shattering fist. In a short span of 100 breaths, he had killed hundreds of thousands of demons. The remaining hundreds of thousands of demons had already been utterly defeated. They were scattered into dozens of groups and desperately fleeing through the mountains and rivers. Ji Tianxing couldn't be bothered with these remnants of the demons. He left them to the Water Tribe soldiers to deal with. He flew back to the Water Tribe camp and looked at the Golden Dragon Emperor. The Golden Dragon Emperor had already stopped fighting and was directing the Water Tribe soldiers to repair the camp. Previously, he was besieged by Nightmare, Demon Commander Dark Knight, and several other demons. Even though he was at the Essence Spirit Realm, he couldn't escape. After all, Demon Commander Dark Knight and Nightmare both had Essence Spirit Realm magic treasures. Their fighting strength was comparable to Essence Spirit Realm experts. After Ji Tianxing killed Nightmare and Demon Commander Dark Knight, the remaining few Soul Refinement Realm demons were quickly killed by the Golden Dragon Emperor. Swoosh! The Golden Dragon Emperor flew across the sky and stopped in front of Ji Tianxing. A gratified smile appeared on his face as he studied Ji Tianxing with shining eyes. He said somewhat emotionally, "Tianxing, I trust you've been well since we last met." Ji Tianxing nodded and smiled. "Greetings, Your Majesty Golden Dragon Emperor." The Golden Dragon Emperor stared at him and said with emotion, "I didn't expect you to grow to this extent in just a short year. Your strength has surpassed mine. It's incredible. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it." It was true that the Golden Dragon Emperor was only at the 3rd level of the Essence Spirit Realm, but Ji Tianxing was already at the peak of the 4th level. Furthermore, his true battle power was not as simple as a 4th-level Primordial Soul Stage cultivator. The Golden Dragon Emperor's words were definitely from the bottom of his heart, and they were filled with shock and admiration. Ji Tianxing didn't say anything. He just smiled and cupped his hands. "Your Majesty Dragon Emperor, I'll leave this place to you. The Devil Emperor is attacking Central Continent City. I have to go back and help the Emperor immediately." Golden Dragon Emperor's smile faded as a serious expression appeared on his face. "It's said that the Devilish Emperor possesses a divine tool that defies the heavens, so you have to be careful. You go and assist the Emperor Lord first. After this Emperor has settled down my clan's soldiers, I will head to Central Continent City to assist." Ji Tianxing nodded, said goodbye to him, and turned to leave. Right now in Central Continent City, the battle situation was intense to the extreme. The Demon Emperor personally led an army of over 1 million demons to attack the Northern Gate. The other 1 million Devil Race soldiers went all out to attack the East Gate. It was obvious that the Demon Emperor had sent half of his forces to attack the East Gate, hoping to enter the Central Prefecture through the East Gate. Below the Northern Gate, everything within 50 kilometers had been reduced to rubble. The ground was filled with huge ravines and deep pits. The moat had long been destroyed, Countless deep pits were filled with dark red blood and piles of corpses. The Devil Race army was still charging bravely, their battle cries shaking the heavens. Inside the city walls, the million human soldiers were still bitterly holding on. Every moment, tens of thousands of human and demon soldiers were sacrificed. The sky above Central Continent City was completely shrouded in black clouds and a bloody mist. 10,000 meters above the ground, the Emperor Lord, the Imperial Tutor, and several human commanders were fighting the Devil Emperor. Even though the Emperor Lord and the others had the advantage in numbers and were attacking the Devil Emperor from all sides, they were no match for the Devil Emperor. However, none of them were a match for the Devil Emperor, and none of them were able to injure him. On the contrary, the Emperor's preceptor and the few human commanders were covered in wounds and blood by the Devil Emperor. There were also 2 commanders who had been sacrificed in the previous battle. These 2 commanders had been recruited by the imperial court. They were hermit experts who lived in seclusion from the world. Their deaths were extremely miserable. The Devil Emperor had reduced their physical bodies to dregs, and even their souls to pieces. The Emperor Lord's injuries were slightly lighter and not life-threatening. The Imperial Tutor, Yin Zhongqi, Divine Dr. Bailey, and the others were all heavily injured and on the verge of death. They grew weaker and weaker, their speed slower and slower, and their injuries worsened. If not for the Emperor Lord using all his strength to block the Devil Emperor's attacks and shoulder 80% of the pressure, they would have been killed long ago. Even so, the situation was worsening. In at most 100 breaths of time, the Imperial Tutor and the commanders would be completely exhausted. At that time, they would find it very difficult to retreat to Central Continent City, and would definitely be killed by the Devil Emperor. Just at this moment of life and death, a hidden and formless figure sped over from the distant sky. It was Ji Tianxing. He flickered 3 times in the sky, and teleported 100 miles away, appearing not far behind the Devil Emperor. He hurriedly unleashed a mystic technique to attack the Demon Emperor upon seeing that the Devil Emperor was wielding an ice-cold, pitch-black ruler. Big Dipper sword. He let loose a low roar as he wielded the Sword of Burial of Heaven, unleashing 7 streaks of golden light that enshrouded the Devil Emperor's body. In that instant, dazzling golden light erupted and illuminated the sky within a radius of 200 kilometers. This area was transformed into a holy world of golden light. The peerlessly terrifying sword intent seemed to be tearing a series of rifts in the sky. No matter how powerful the Devil Emperor was, he didn't expect Ji Tianxing to appear at this time. Furthermore, he didn't expect Ji Tianxing to grow to such a level. By the time he sensed that something was amiss, it was already too late. Bam 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 bam. 7 consecutive muffled booms erupted high in the sky, as if 7 bolts of divine lightning had struck. The terrifyingly powerful golden sword projection instantly shattered the Demon King's magic power shield, before stabbing into his body viciously. His entire body was covered in ice-cold pitch-black scales, and possessed an extremely powerful defense. However, 7 bloody holes immediately appeared on his broad back and waist, from which dark purple demonic blood spurted out. Each of the bloody holes was the size of a bowl, and they were so deep that his bones could be seen. Roar! The sudden extreme pain caused his body to tremble violently, and he let loose a pained roar as his body convulsed. He immediately circulated his energy to shatter the 7 streaks of golden light, before abruptly turning around. His 4 eyes were as red as blood as he glared hatefully at Ji Tianxing. When he saw that his assailant was Ji Tianxing, his expression changed drastically, and a look of intense shock appeared on his face. Ji Tianxing, it's actually you, you bastard. You actually injured me. How is this possible? At that moment, his heart was extremely shaken, and a storm was set off within him. Ji Tianxing stared at him coldly as a cold smile appeared on his face. Ha ha ha. Nothing is impossible. 3 years ago, when you broke the seal of the Sky Pillar sect, I silently swore that one day, I would personally kill you and avenge the deaths of my fellow sect members. Chapter 1442. Originally, Ji Tianxing could cultivate peacefully in the Sky Pillar sect and live a peaceful life. With his talent, he could have inherited the position of sect master in a few years. He and Yun Yao could also see each other every day and love each other. But all of this was ruined by the Demon King. After the Demon King broke the seal, not only did he destroy the Sky Pillar sect and kill countless people, but he also almost lost his life. From then on, he hated the Devil Emperor to the bone and swore to kill the Devil Emperor to avenge himself. It was also from then on that his fate changed. In the past few years, he had suffered countless dangers and tribulations, and he almost lost his life countless times. The main culprit behind all of this was the ancient Demon King. In this world, the person that Ji Tianqing hated the most and wanted to kill the most was the Demon King. The ancient Demon King calmed down and stared at him with venomous eyes. He said in a low and cold voice, "Ji Tianqing, you are indeed the successor of the Qinxin bloodline. You are so monstrous. I have never seen someone as monstrous as you in tens of thousands of years. In just 2 months, you have broken through the Essence Soul Realm, and even reached the 4th level of the Essence Soul Realm. This is definitely a miracle. The Qinxin bloodline is so powerful." The ancient Demon King did not know the real reason for Ji Tianqing's sudden increase in strength. He only thought that it was the heaven-defying effect of the Qinxin bloodline. He even suspected that Ji Tianqing had undergone some kind of bloodline awakening to become so powerful. At that thought, he coveted the Qinxin bloodline even more. His heart was filled with jealousy, so much so that his eyes turned red. He wanted nothing more than to kill Ji Tianqing immediately and take the Qinxin bloodline for himself. Ji Tianqing did not reply. He looked calmly at the imperial tutor, Yun Zhongqi, and the rest. He said, "Everyone leave this to us. Go back and recuperate." The imperial tutor, Yun Zhongqi, and the others all hesitated for a moment and cast inquiring gazes at the emperor. The emperor took a deep look at Ji Tianqing. After seeing his strength, he nodded to everyone. "Listen to Tianqing." Only then did the imperial tutor, Yun Zhongqi, and the others retreat into the distance and give him a few words of advice. "Emperor Tianqing, you must be careful. No matter what, you must return safely." After saying this, the imperial tutor, Yun Zhongqi, and the others flew back to Central Continent City, their bodies covered in wounds and blood. Only Ji Tianqing, the celestial emperor, and the demon emperor were left above the clouds. The 3 of them stood in the sea of clouds with cold expressions, their bodies surging with killing intent. Ji Tianqing and the emperor stood on the left and right of the demon emperor, facing each other from 10 miles away. Both of them had their left hands behind their backs, and their right hands wielding divine swords as they stared coldly at the demon emperor. Ji Tianqing's gaze was fixed on the Taiyin soul-severing ruler in the demon emperor's hand. It was a dark purple ruler that was as wide as a palm and about 5 feet long. Its design was exquisite and beautiful. The ruler was straight and narrow. Its surface was engraved with ancient runes and symbols that flickered with purple light. The ruler's surface was covered in a layer of purple mist. It was mysterious and cold, and had the effect of suppressing the soul and primordial spirit. Ji Tianqing frowned slightly as he thought to himself, "The demon emperor's strength has only recovered to about the 5th level of the primordial spirit realm. He is not much of a threat to me. However, the Taiyin soul-severing ruler in his hand is a true divine artifact. It has the power to destroy the world." Back then, he used this ruler to severely injure the Manor Lord and dig out his deity heart. I wonder where the Devil Emperor obtained this divine ruler from. He had always had this question in his heart, but he could not find an answer. At this moment, the Empyrean Emperor looked down at the north gate of Central State City. He frowned and pondered for a moment before sending a voice transmission to Ji Tianqing. "Tianqing, we have to lure the demon emperor further away. This place is too close to Central State City. If we fight with all our strength, the shockwaves from the battle will definitely endanger Central State City. If the defensive array is destroyed, Central State City will be breached. The consequences will be unimaginable." Ji Tianqing nodded to express his understanding. He pointed the burial of heaven at the demon emperor and said in a contemptuous tone, "Demon Emperor, everyone knows that I am your nemesis and nemesis. Today, we will fight to the death and settle this once and for all. Not only will I kill you, I will also wipe out your army of 10 million and slaughter the entire northern desert. If you have the guts, come with me." With that, he held the burial of heaven and flew into the distance. The demon emperor also had the same intention. He did not want the shockwaves from the battle to harm the demon army attacking Central State City. He held the extreme soul-severing ruler and sneered with a sinister expression. Then he chased after Ji Tianxing into the distance. "Little bastard, so what if you have reached the primordial spirit realm? This emperor has cultivated for several thousand years. How can you imagine the remarkable abilities and methods I possess? You think you are worthy of being this emperor's nemesis? This emperor will tear you to pieces and take your Kenshin bloodline." After about 30 breaths of time, Ji Tianxing stopped in the air above a majestic mountain range. This place was over 1,000 li away from Central State City. The shockwaves from the battle between the three of them, at full strength, would not destroy the defenses of Central State City. He stood in the sky above the mountains, towering above the clouds. The demon emperor followed closely behind. He waved his dark purple ruler and slashed out giant purple blades of light that blotted out the sky. Soul-severing slash. Following his furious roar, 9 gigantic blades of purple light that were thousands of meters long slashed towards Ji Tianxing, as if they could split the heavens and earth. The strange thing was that the 9 purple blades of light were very illusory. They were clearly not real. This was the divine power of the extreme soul-severing ruler, a strange power that specialized in destroying souls and primordial spirits. Although Ji Tianxing was confident, he was not arrogant. He looked warily at the demon emperor and used all his strength to block the 9 purple blades. Great freedom soul annihilation slash. He waved the sword of burial of heaven and slashed out 9 invisible sword flares that were over 1,000 feet long, slashing at the 9 purple blades. These 9 invisible sword flares were similar to the soul-severing slash. They were both powers that countered souls. In the next moment, the 18 sword flares clashed with a loud boom. Bang! 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 The 9 invisible sword flares immediately collapsed, turning into violent shockwaves that swept out in all directions. The shockwaves scattered the clouds in a radius of several dozen li, turning it into a blank area. However, the 9 purple soul-severing slashes did not dissipate. Instead, they slashed at Ji Tianxing. Bang! 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 Ji Tianxing was sent flying 10 miles away by the attack. Fortunately, he had cultivated the Dharma body of heaven and earth, and the true self-Dharma form. They withstood the power of the 9 soul-severing slashes. His physical body and primordial spirit were unharmed. However, his primordial spirit was shaken, and his consciousness was a little blurry. The demon emperor took the opportunity to pursue. He sneered and waved his ruler again, slashing out a few more giant purple blades. At this moment, the emperor had arrived. He quickly waved the sword of the human sovereign to meet the demon emperor. Glaze Emperor Sword. He waved the sword of the human sovereign and slashed out golden sword flares that covered the sky. They formed a golden wall that looked like glaze, blocking the demon emperor's attack. Ji Tianxing was sent flying 10 li away. When his primordial spirit came to, he immediately teleported back and used his secret technique to attack the demon emperor. Chapter 1443. Bang! 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 Ji Tianxing, the imperial emperor, and the devilish emperor were fighting fiercely in the high sky. The three of them unleashed their ultimate techniques and unleashed destructive attacks. The collisions created earth-shattering noises. Colorful magical lights illuminated the sky for hundreds of miles. The vast sea of white clouds was also scattered by the aftermath of the battle. The figures of the three flickered back and forth in the sky, appearing and disappearing at times. Ordinary people could not even see the figures of the three clearly. They were not even qualified to watch the battle. After all, the three of them were the three most powerful supreme warriors in the Tianxian continent. The heaven-shaking and earth-shaking battle continued for a full half an hour without stopping. The devilish emperor wanted to end the battle quickly and kill Ji Tianxing and the imperial emperor as quickly as possible. This way, he could break into the central state city as quickly as possible and reduce the losses of the devilish army. Therefore, he performed the secret skill of the devilish Tao with all his might and urged the power of the extreme soul-rending ruler. The attacks released were extremely terrifying. Ji Tianxing and the imperial emperor worked together, yet they could not do anything to him. On the contrary, they were beaten back continuously. The imperial emperor was already heavily injured. After fighting for half an hour with the devilish emperor, his injuries became even more miserable. The golden dragon robe he wore had already been shredded into pieces, and only a tattered armor was left on his body. Through the cracks of the armor, one could clearly see that he was bleeding all over. His chest and back were covered with hideous wounds that revealed his golden bones. The golden crown on his head was also shattered. His long hair was drenched in blood and draped over his shoulders in a mess. He waved the mortal sovereign sword and performed his unique skills while panting violently. Pain and fatigue were written all over his face that was covered in blood. His eyes also became dim and lifeless, especially his primordial spirit. It had been hit by the extreme soul-rending ruler several times. It was already covered in wounds and his power was depleted. More than half of his spiritual power had been consumed, and his power was extremely weak. He could not hold on for much longer. If he continued to fight, his life would be in danger at any time. The devilish emperor would most likely destroy his divine body, or even kill him directly. Ji Tianxing also looked somewhat miserable, but his injuries were lighter. His long hair was disheveled, his face was stained with blood, and his white robe was also dyed red. On his chest and left arm, there were 2 chopstick-sized wounds. They were so deep that his bones could be seen, and blood was flowing freely. Even though he had cultivated the heaven and earth Dharma body, and was able to gather the power of heaven and earth within 1,000 miles to defend against the Fiend Emperor's attack, it was still too late. Unfortunately, his primordial soul realm strength was not enough to withstand the terrifying power of the Taiyin soul-splitting ruler. In comparison, the Devil Emperor's injuries were the lightest, and his strength was the most vigorous. There were also several wounds and bloody holes on his sturdy body, but none of them were fatal, nor did they affect his ability to fight. After exchanging a few more blows, the Demon Emperor suddenly sensed a flaw in the Celestial Emperor's defense, and immediately grinned. Long Xuanquan die. He shouted coldly and wielded the extreme soul-severing ruler with all his strength, shooting out 3 dazzling purple lights. Pung pung pung. 3 streaks of purple light condensed into a long spear and ruthlessly struck the monarch, enveloping his body. One of the purple spears hit his left shoulder, turning it into a bloody mess. His bones were shattered, and his entire left arm was almost broken. The other 2 spears hit his chest and abdomen, piercing through 2 bowl-sized bloody holes. After suffering such heavy injuries, the monarch's physical body was on the verge of death. His primordial soul was also severely injured, and his consciousness became blurry. He almost fainted. He was sent flying as blood spurted out from his nose and mouth. The mortal sovereign sword almost flew out of his hand. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the devilish emperor wielded the extreme soul-severing ruler again, wanting to kill the celestial emperor's primordial soul in one fell swoop. Ji Tianxing's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His heart was burning with worry as he rushed over to stop the devilish emperor. Heaven-splitting sword. He unleashed all his strength, holding the sword of burial of heaven with both hands, and slashed out with all his might. Pung! The 1,000-feet-long golden sword shattered the devilish emperor's attack and blocked his way. The devilish emperor was instantly enraged. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he roared with resentment. Little bastard! Since you want to die so badly, I will grant you your wish. In the previous battle, he could have killed the monarch several times, but Ji Tianxing blocked him every time. That was why Ji Tianxing was injured. There were several wounds and bloody holes on his body. The devilish emperor had been holding back, waiting for an opportunity to kill the monarch. Now, he had seized another opportunity, but it was still resolved by Ji Tianxing. He could no longer hold back his anger as he roared hysterically. Ji Tianxing, since you are so protective of Long Xuanquan, I will kill you first before killing him. Let's see who can save Long Xuanquan after I tear you into pieces." As he roared, the devilish emperor unleashed all his strength and channeled it into the extreme soul-severing ruler. Swoosh! The dark purple ruler immediately expanded to 10,000 times its original size, turning into a 10,000-meter-long ruler. It hung high in the sky like a purple rainbow. The ruler lit up with a purple light that covered the sky and earth, covering a radius of 200 miles. The runes and symbols carved on the surface of the ruler seemed to come alive as they gathered to form a black hole. The black hole was like an abyss. It released a terrifying suction force that enveloped Ji Tianxing. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing could not resist the suction force of the ruler. He was immediately sucked into the sky and into the ruler. In the blink of an eye, he was swallowed by the extreme soul-severing ruler and was suppressed in the internal space of the ruler. Every Dharma treasure had its own Dharma treasure space, and the extreme soul-severing ruler was no exception. However, the extreme soul-severing ruler was a real divine artifact. It was different from ordinary Dharma treasures. Its Dharma treasure space was a vast and boundless world, just like a small world. However, there were no living things in this small world. There was not even a blade of grass or a tree. It was filled with a cold aura of death. Under Ji Tianxing's feet was a boundless water surface. It was as flat as a mirror, without any ripples. Above his head was a vast azure sky, with white clouds floating in it. The blue sky and white clouds were reflected on the mirror-like water surface. It was extremely clear and lifelike. As a result, Ji Tianxing could not tell whether the blue sky and white clouds were above his head or below his feet. Just as he was looking around cautiously, a blood-red light flashed across the sky not far from him. Swoosh! The blood-red light suddenly retracted, and the Demon King's figure appeared. He stood in the sky 10 miles away and looked at him with a sinister smile. "Ji Tianxing, welcome to my world. Time and space are reversed. In this space, yin and yang are reversed. Heaven and earth are reversed. I am the master of this space. You have been suppressed here by me. There is no way for you to escape. Surrender obediently and accept your death." The Demon King put his hands behind his back and looked down at him. He was full of confidence and dominance. Chapter 1444. This chaotic space was the space of the Taiyin soul-severing ruler. Now that the demonic emperor had the Taiyin soul-severing ruler, he was naturally the master of this space. Ji Tianxing was in the chaotic space and could clearly feel the formless suppressive power pressing down on him like a mountain. In this space, there was no spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Yin-yang and the 5 elements were also inverted. He could not absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to replenish his strength. In this space, he could only constantly exhaust his own spiritual energy. If he dragged on for too long, even if the demonic emperor did not attack, he would exhaust his spiritual energy and be crushed to death by the formless space power. Therefore, he could only end the battle quickly and could not stay for too long. The demonic emperor had the same idea. He only wanted to kill him as soon as possible and seize his Kenshin bloodline. This way, after the demonic army breached Zhongzhou city, he could sit in Zhongzhou and invade the territories of the Yao clan and the Water clan. He could then dominate the entire Tianxian continent. Ji Tianxing, stop resisting. If you know what's good for you, surrender obediently and hand over the Kenshin bloodline. The demonic emperor shouted proudly as he stared coldly at Ji Tianxing with his hands behind his back. Ji Tianxing's eyes were still cold and sharp. His lips curled into a cold smile as he said in a mocking tone, "Demonic emperor, you are too impatient and overconfident. Without the Taiyin soul-severing ruler, what right do you have to fight me?" Indeed, if the demonic emperor continued to fight with him outside, he would not be able to withstand the power of the Taiyin soul-severing ruler in half a day at most. He would be defeated by the demonic emperor. After all, the Taiyin soul-severing ruler was a true divine weapon. The sword of burial of heaven was just a pseudo-divine weapon that had just recovered to the primordial spirit level. In the previous battle, The sword of burial of heaven had clashed with the Tian soul-severing ruler more than 10 times. However, it did not gain the upper hand. Instead, the burial of heaven suffered heavy injuries. Even though the burial of heaven was once a divine sword and had god-level battle experience, it could not clash with the Tian soul-severing ruler. The power of this divine ruler could really destroy heaven and earth and destroy the stars in outer space. Fortunately, Burial of Heaven discovered a secret. The extreme Ein soul-severing ruler was not the Devil Emperor's natal magic treasure. The Devil Emperor was only using it temporarily and could only unleash about 30% of its power. It was precisely because of this that the Emperor and Ji Tianxing were able to fight the Devil Emperor for so long. If the Demon Emperor could unleash the full power of the ruler, the two of them would have been killed by the extreme Ein soul-severing ruler long ago. Now the Demon Emperor was in a hurry to kill Ji Tianxing, so he put him into the extreme Ein soul-severing ruler. While the two of them were fighting in the space of the artifact, the Demon Emperor couldn't use the extreme Ein soul-severing ruler to deal with him. This was equivalent to cutting off one's own arms and losing one's strongest support. To Ji Tianxing, this was of course an excellent opportunity. His magic power was surging in his body as he decided to use his trump card to fight the devilish emperor to the death. The Demon Emperor was still full of confidence as he bellowed in a dignified manner. Ji Tianxing, you broke through to the essence soul realm at such a young age and became the continent's youngest paragon expert. This has already made you arrogant to the point that you are almost ignorant. Now that you have been severely injured by me, how much strength can you still retain? Even if I only use 10% of the divine ruler's power, I can still kill you 1,000 times over. I will soon let you understand the difference between you and me. It's like the difference between the clouds and the mud. As he spoke, the Demon Emperor waved his palms and conjured mystical seals. His body surged with a bloody light. Blood Sea Pagoda. As he bellowed, the mystic technique was immediately executed. Thousands of ancient demon race words and symbols surged out from his palms and flew in all directions. Swish, 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 swish. Tens of thousands of mystical seals and symbols scattered in the sky within 100 miles. They lit up with a bloody light and condensed into a gigantic light shield. In the blink of an eye, a domain that spanned 100 miles was formed. It was like a gigantic sphere. Within the domain, endless bloody water appeared out of nowhere, forming a vast sea of blood. Huge waves surged on the surface of the sea of blood. White bones floated on the surface of the sea, releasing a destructive force. Wave after wave of bloody waves, carrying the power to devour souls and corrode bones, slammed into Ji Tianxing. The formless power of the domain suppressed him firmly, making it difficult for him to move. His strength was also suppressed and weakened. The Demon Emperor stood proudly on top of the bloody waves and said with a sinister smile, Ji Tianxing, this blood sea domain is the burial ground I have prepared for you. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing was not to be outdone, and immediately executed his domain. Do you think you are the only one who has mastered a domain? Coincidentally, I have also mastered a domain that can counter your blood sea. As he spoke, he waved his palms and executed a mystic technique. His body surged with a golden light. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As he finished executing the technique, golden light surged out of his body, and thousands of purple thunderbolts flew in all directions. In the blink of an eye, a golden light shield spanning 100 miles appeared out of nowhere. This was Ji Tianxing's divine thunder sword domain. The huge golden light shield was filled with purple thunderbolts that intersected with each other. They were like the veins of an array, emitting dazzling thunderbolts. The purple thunderbolts contain violent yang energy, which was the natural nemesis of the evil demonic qi. The divine thunder sword domain and the blood sea pagoda overlapped. The two were like fire and water, corroding and resisting each other. Instantly, a series of muffled sounds erupted. The power of the domain that suppressed Ji Tianxing also dissipated quickly. Undead skeletons kept surging out of the blood sea. Huge swords of bloody light covered the sky and shot toward Ji Tianxing like a rain of arrows. The Divine Thunder Sword domain also condensed thousands of golden sword radiances. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. They attacked the Demon Emperor, forming a net of golden sword radiances that covered the sky. Not only that, thousands of purple thunderbolts struck down from the sky and drowned the Demon Emperor. The two of them controlled their respective domains with all their might and fought fiercely in the Blood Sea. In just a short period of time, the two domains had attacked each other hundreds of times. They were both damaged and full of cracks. However, the Blood Sea Pagoda was the first to collapse. It exploded into countless bloody shards and splashed in all directions. Although the Divine Thunder Sword domain was damaged and incomplete, it was still intact. It could still release powerful sword radiances and thunderbolts. The Demon Emperor's Blood Sea domain was broken. His face turned pale immediately. He opened his mouth and spat out a few mouthfuls of demon blood. His primordial spirit also suffered from the backlash of the domain. His consciousness was a little dizzy and blurry. Without the help of the Tian soul-splitting ruler, his real combat strength was slightly weaker than Ji Tianxing's. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ji Tianxing immediately used all his strength to perform his ultimate move and attacked the Demon Emperor. God-slaying spear. He suddenly raised his left palm and released endless golden divine flames. They condensed into a 10-meter-long golden divine spear and stabbed toward the Demon Emperor. Swoosh! The golden divine spear instantly pierced through the sky and arrived in front of the Demon Emperor. Chapter 1445. Bam! With a loud thud, the god-slaying spear pierced the demonic emperor's chest. His broad and muscular chest was covered in black dragon scales and was protected by a purple robe and a soft armor. However, under the attack of the god-slaying spear, these were negligible and weak. His broad chest was pierced by the god-slaying spear in an instant, leaving a bloody hole the size of a large bowl. Coincidentally, the bloody hole was on the left side of his heart and went straight through. Through the bloody hole, one could clearly see the blood and bones in his chest. Without a doubt, the demonic emperor's heart was also destroyed by the god-slaying spear. The powerful impact sent him flying for more than 10 miles before he landed on the mirror-like surface of the water. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing slowly retracted his left palm and heaved a sigh of relief. Ha ha ha! Just as I expected, without the Tian soul-splitting ruler, the demonic emperor is no match for me. His heart is destroyed and his physical body is dead. Next, I can use the primordial spirit golden sword to kill his primordial spirit. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, he summoned his primordial spirit Dharma form, and a giant sword shadow appeared behind him. This giant golden sword was very majestic and sacred, containing the power to split the heavens and earth. Ji Tianxing was about to cast a spell to kill the demonic emperor in the distance. Unexpectedly, the demonic emperor's figure flashed and flew up from the water. His physical body was still alive. His entire body was emitting a dazzling blood-red light and emitting a terrifying aura. Ji Tianxing, you despicable worm, I'm going to tear you to pieces. The demonic emperor covered the bloody hole in his chest with his left hand and roared in rage. As the bloody light soared into the sky, his body began to distort and change dramatically. In the blink of an eye, he turned from a 3-meter-tall white-haired man into a giant black beast that was more than 100 feet tall. The 300-meter-tall demonic beast was as huge as a mountain. The muscles on its limbs and back bulged like black rocks. It had 2 large heads and a ferocious face. Its wide mouth revealed 2 rows of sharp fangs, and its scarlet eyes flashed with murderous intent. It looked like a demonic ape, but it had 6 arms and 4 black azura wings on its back. It also had a black tail that looked like the tail of a black dragon. Ji Tianxing's face turned gloomy when he saw the black giant demon. His eyes flashed with astonishment. I've already used the god-slaying spear to destroy his heart and body. Why was his physical body still alive? And why was he able to reveal his true demonic body? Could it be that his heart is different from a human's and not on the left, but on the right? Ji Tianxing was no stranger to that black giant devil, which was the true body of the Devil Emperor. A few years ago, He had accidentally touched Kenshin's memory in his dream. At that time, he saw the black giant demon wreaking havoc in the mountains and rivers, wantonly slaughtering human martial artists and civilians. Later, Kenshin personally attacked and heavily injured this demonic beast with a single sword strike, sealing and suppressing it. At this time, the Devil Emperor looked down at Ji Tianxing from above and roared in a venomous voice. Ji Tianxing, you damned little bastard, you've completely infuriated me. You're dead meat. Today, even the heavens can't save you. Even if you go to heaven or hell, you can't escape death. As the Devil Emperor roared, demonic aura surged out of his body, forming demonic clouds that covered the sky for hundreds of miles. This was one of the devil race's secret techniques. It could use the demonic clouds to change the environment and greatly increase the devil race's combat strength. After witnessing Ji Tianxing's terrifying strength, the Devil Emperor didn't dare to underestimate him. He wasn't in a hurry to attack. As he roared and cursed, he secretly conjured a technique to accumulate power. Do you think you can destroy my physical body just because you destroyed my heart? You're too naive. I'm the devil race's emperor, born from an ancient demonic seed. I was born without a heart. I don't have any fatal weaknesses. I have an undying body and an indestructible soul. Even Kenshin couldn't kill me back then. What makes you think you can fight me? Hearing the demon emperor's words, Ji Tianxing came to a sudden realization and finally understood the reason. I see. Undying body and indestructible soul. That's why Kenshin couldn't kill the Devil Emperor. He could only seal and suppress him. He murmured in a low voice. The corners of his mouth curled into a mocking sneer. His voice was as loud as a bell as he said, "Ha ha ha. So this is your secret and your greatest reliance. However, you've met me today, so you're destined to be destroyed. I'm not Kenshin. Kenshin can't kill you, but I can send you to your death." As soon as he finished speaking, he used the spirit concealment step and teleported 30 miles away in a flash. He rushed to a distance of 10,000 feet in front of the Devil Emperor. He held the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and stabbed at the Devil Emperor with all his might. Sword thrust. Not only did he use all his strength for this attack, but burial of heaven also pushed his strength to the limit, pushing the power of his sword technique to the limit. This was the combined attack of Ji Tianxing and burial of heaven. Its power was terrifying to the extreme. Whoosh! A cold light suddenly appeared and tore through the dusky sky. Before the Devil Emperor could teleport away, the cold light pierced through the Devil Emperor's chest and exploded inside his chest. Boom! The cold light suddenly bloomed like a snow-white mushroom cloud, rising into the sky. The Devil Emperor's mountainous figure was immediately enveloped. A deep crater with a radius of 30 meters was blasted open on his chest. Blood and bits of flesh splattered everywhere. The terrifying explosive force blasted the Demon Emperor away and sent him tumbling 20 miles away. Although his injuries were severe, they weren't fatal. He fell into the mirror like water, causing a huge splash. He immediately got up and flew back into the sky. Worm. All of this is futile. Give up. This emperor will now show you what an undying body is. The Devil Emperor roared like thunder. A dazzling bloody light surged out of his body and quickly covered the crater in his chest. In the blink of an eye, the bloody crater quickly healed, leaving behind only a sinister scar. Anyone who saw this scene would be shocked by the Devil Emperor's powerful recovery ability and feel despair. But Ji Tianxing had expected this result. His expression didn't change as he coldly shouted, "There is no such thing as an undying body in front of me. You can repair it once, but I don't believe that you can repair it 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times." With that, he gripped the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and slashed at the Devil Emperor with all his strength. Having Cleaving, a 10,000-meter-long golden sword light wrapped in purple lightning slashed at the Devil Emperor. Chapter 1446. Raging blood seals the heavens. The Demon Emperor roared like thunder. He waved his 6 arms and unleashed a bloody light that condensed into a bloody barrier in front of him. The gigantic sword descended from the sky and struck the blood barrier with a resounding boom. accompanied by rolling lightning and purple light. Kaboom! With a thunderous explosion, the giant sword and the bloody barrier collapsed at the same time, exploding into countless fragments that scattered across the sky. The Demon Emperor was knocked back 10,000 feet. His massive body swayed a few times before he regained his footing. Ji Tianxing was also knocked back and fell 10 li away. Seeing this, the Demon Emperor roared and launched a counterattack, unleashing a bloody light that shot toward him. Blood Dragon Slaying God. The dark red light that blotted out the sky instantly condensed into 9 bloody dragons that were 10,000 feet long. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws at Ji Tianxing. Wings of the Golden Rock. Ji Tianxing unfurled his golden wings without hesitation to protect himself. Pung 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 pung. The 9 bloody dragons struck him one after another, creating a series of thunderous booms and thousands of bloody shards. Ji Tianxing was once again sent flying, landing a dozen li away in the sky. His golden wings were undamaged, and he was also unharmed. However, the 9 bloody dragons had all collapsed. The Demon Emperor was filled with unwillingness as he charged over in a frenzy. Little bastard, this emperor will make you die without a burial ground. No matter how you resist, it's useless. This emperor is undefeatable. Only death awaits you. As he roared, the Demon Emperor waved his 6 arms, unleashing bloody light and demonic chi that filled the sky. They condensed into various attacks that rained down on Ji Tianxing like a torrential flood. Ji Tianxing hurriedly used the spirit concealment step. His body disappeared into the sky as he repeatedly teleported away to avoid the attacks. For those attacks that he could not avoid, he waved the Sword of Burial of Heaven and used his supreme sword techniques to block them. The two chased and fought in the blue sky. Their figures constantly flickered, so fast that others could not see them clearly. All that was left were afterimages. Outside Middle State City, the demon army had been desperately attacking for 4 hours, but they had still failed to break through the northern gate. Both sides had paid a terrible price. Both inside and outside the city walls, corpses littered the ground and rivers of blood flowed. In particular, nearly half of the 1 million demon soldiers had been killed, leaving only 800,000 or so. The demons attacked for a long time without success. Their forces were divided into 2 groups, and their offensive gradually weakened. Furthermore, the Demon Emperor was still nowhere to be seen. He was still fighting Ji Tianxing in the distant sky. The demon generals were filled with concern, and they ordered the demon army to withdraw 100 li to rest outside the city. The human soldiers also took advantage of this rare opportunity to treat their injuries and recuperate. Suddenly, there was a burst of exclamations from both inside and outside the city walls. Countless people were shouting in shock. Look, what is that thing? What a terrifying scene. Could it be that the Demon Emperor is casting a spell? Many human and demon soldiers exclaimed in shock and confusion. The Emperor's preceptor and the human commanders immediately looked towards the sky 1,000 miles away from them. They saw that a massive vortex had appeared in the distant sky. This white vortex was at least 200 li in diameter. As it rapidly spun, it stirred up tornadoes. In the center of the vortex was a dark violet ruler, tens of thousands of feet long, spinning rapidly like a rainbow. The white vortex of light wildly swallowed up everything in its surroundings. The vast sea of clouds in the sky was swallowed up by the vortex, revealing the blue sky. The earth and mountains below were also torn into countless pieces by the vortex's powerful energy, turning into endless dust. Violent shockwaves spread out, transforming into several dozen tornadoes that swept through the surrounding several hundred li. At least 30,000-foot-tall mountains were pulverized by the tornadoes, reduced to rubble. Such an earth-shattering scene caused countless people to be shocked, and they let out waves of screams and exclamations. The ordinary human soldiers didn't know what was going on. They also did not understand what this heaven-shaking sight meant. But the imperial tutor and the human commanders knew very well that the purple streak of light in the vortex was the Demon Emperor's heaven-defying divine weapon, the Taiyin soul-severing ruler. Not long ago, the Demon Emperor had used the power of the Taiyin soul-severing ruler to swallow Ji Tianxing. At this moment, Ji Tianxing was fighting a bloody battle with the Demon Emperor within the Taiyin soul-severing ruler. No one knew how much danger he was in, or what kind of situation he was in. When His Majesty returned, he was heavily injured and covered in blood. He was on the verge of fainting. Even the Emperor could not stop the Demon Emperor, and was heavily injured. Ji Tianxing's situation is bleak. That's right. No matter how monstrous Tianxing is, he's only in his early 20s. He's too young. With his 20 years of cultivation, how can he stop the Demon Emperor, who has cultivated for thousands of years? But Tianxing has been sucked into the Taiyin soul-severing ruler. They're fighting inside the Taiyin soul-severing ruler. No matter how worried we are, we can't help. The Emperor is already heavily injured, and has returned to the city lord's residence to recuperate. I only hope that Tianxing doesn't make any more mistakes. That's right. I hope that Tianxing can hold on, and defeat the Demon Emperor. Otherwise, Central State City will fall. The Imperial Tutor and the other commanders discussed, their expressions and eyes full of worry. Within the Taiyin soul-severing ruler, Ji Tianxing and the Demon Emperor had been fighting fiercely for 100 breaths of time. The two of them had already exchanged over 100 blows, displaying all kinds of secret techniques and ultimate skills. The Demon Emperor attacked wildly, forcing Ji Tianxing back again and again. However, he could not severely injure him, only slightly injuring him. The Demon Emperor finally realized that Ji Tianxing's true strength had surpassed his. He could not accept this result, nor did he want to believe it. He was infuriated, and blood-red flames surged out of his body. Finally, a gap appeared in his ferocious attacks, and he paused for a moment. Ji Tianxing immediately seized the opportunity, and used his trump card to counterattack. Thunderbolt. He suddenly opened the divine eye of Thunderbolt on his forehead, and released endless purple thunderbolts, which gathered into a 10,000 feet long thunderbolt that blasted the Demon Emperor's body. Kaboom! Ji Tianxing had been accumulating power for more than 2 years for this violent thunderbolt of the 9 heavens. Its power had reached its limit, comparable to the attack of an 8th-level Essence Soul Stage expert. At that moment, the Demon Emperor was struck by the thunderbolt, and his flesh was instantly pulverized, splattering in all directions. The pieces of flesh and blood that filled the sky were all wrapped up by the pillars of lightning, and then turned into pitch-black powder. The Demon Emperor's 1,000-feet-tall body was reduced to black ashes that covered the sky and scattered in the air. He never thought that the immortal body he was so proud of would be so vulnerable under the bombardment of the 9 heavens' divine thunder. Chapter 1447. The Fiend Emperor was born from an ancient fiend seed, and had an almost immortal body. However, the 9 heavens' divine lightning, which was of extreme yang, would forever be the nemesis of evil and heretical Tao. If Ji Tianxing was only at the soul refinement realm, he would not be able to harm the Fiend Emperor, even if he released the 9 heavens' divine lightning. However, he was now at the 4th level Essence Soul realm, and his combat strength was in no way weaker than the Fiend Emperor's. The 9 heavens' divine lightning he released could naturally destroy the Fiend Emperor's body. The black ash that blotted out the sky was about to gather and reform the Fiend Emperor's body. Ji Tianxing was already prepared. His lips curled into a sneer as he struck out with his palms, sending out a divine white light that blotted out the sky. Swoosh! The blinding white light immediately enveloped the black ash and enveloped it. When the black ash came into contact with the mysterious white light, it immediately melted away like snow under the sun. Without a doubt, the source of the divine white light was Ji Tianxing's greatest trump card and trump card, the Heaven-Mending Pearl. This divine item had many mysterious effects, but the most prominent one was to purify and devour fiends. In a short span of 10 breaths, the black ash was completely devoured by the white light. The Fiend Emperor's body was completely destroyed, leaving behind a dark red blood light that was still struggling violently in the white light. That was his essence soul, and the source of his power. He struggled with all his might, trying his best to resist the devouring of the mysterious white light as he roared and cursed in horror. Ah! Ji Tianxing, you damned bastard! Beast! What did you do? What kind of power is that? How can it devour my immortal body? For thousands of years, the Fiend Emperor had been invincible in the Tianxian continent. Apart from Qin Shin, no one could defeat him. The nurturing of the Fiend's seed, immortal body, and indestructible soul were his greatest trump cards. However, he never expected Ji Tianxing to possess a special power that could devour his body. The sudden turn of events filled him with fear and anger, as well as deep regret. If he had known that Ji Tianxing was so monstrous and possessed the power to kill him, he would never have kept Ji Tianxing in the Dharma treasure space of the divine ruler. He should have used the power of the extreme Yin soul-severing ruler to fight Ji Tianxing for 4 to 6 hours to kill him. Unfortunately, it was too late for him to regret. The light shield formed by the mysterious white light enveloped his primordial spirit and devoured his energy with all its might. He struggled desperately, but he couldn't break free from the white light's restraint. Tianxing, don't even think about it. I will never lose to you. Never. The Demon Emperor roared furiously and immediately revealed his huge Yuan spirit Dharma idol. He swore to escape from the white light and leave this chaotic space. His Dharma was a god-demon god, 1,000 feet tall god. It had a body as sturdy as a mountain and had the terrifying power to shake the sun and moon. It had 2 large heads, 8 thick and muscular arms, and 3 pairs of wings that shone with blood-red light. This god-demon god had created the blood demon sect's secret technique in the ancient times. It allowed the demon race to devour the blood and souls of millions of living beings to rapidly increase their power. The blood god's secret technique was one of the blood demon sect's secret techniques. It was famous all over the world. The divine lightning emperor swung his 8 arms wildly and slashed countless blood-red blades at the divine lightning emperor's origin. Bam! 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 A series of loud noises could be heard. The divine lightning emperor's origin shook violently, and cracks appeared on the divine lightning emperor's origin. Ji Tianxing tried his best to hold on. He continued to channel the power of the heaven-mending pearl to quickly repair the cracks on the divine lightning emperor's origin. However, the divine lightning emperor was pleasantly surprised when he saw the cracks on the divine lightning emperor's origin. He decisively used his ultimate skill. He broke off 4 of his arms and detonated them at the divine lightning emperor's origin. Bam! 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 The divine lightning emperor's origin was unable to withstand such a terrifying power and shattered on the spot. The boundless blood-red flames were no longer restrained by the divine lightning emperor's origin. They immediately exploded and swept across the sky like a tide. The violent impact sent Ji Tianxing flying. The divine lightning emperor also took the opportunity to escape. He flew into the distant sky, regaining his freedom, and being no longer suppressed by the mysterious divine lightning emperor, made him feel as if he had been reborn. He only wanted to leave the Dharma treasure space immediately and return to the outside world. When the time came, he would use the Taiyin soul-severing ruler to cut Ji Tianxing into thousands of pieces and torture him to death in the cruelest way possible. However, just as this thought flashed through his mind, a dazzling golden light instantly woke him up. Roar! It was a giant sword of golden light that was 10,000 feet tall. It let out a clear roar that sounded like a dragon's roar from the 9 heavens. He could only watch helplessly as the sacred and majestic sword blocked his path. Then, the giant sword split into 810 golden giant swords and flew in all directions. In the blink of an eye, a giant sword formation was formed. The dazzling golden light enveloped an area of 100 miles and also suppressed the divine lightning emperor's origin spirit. The divine lightning emperor was stunned. He immediately waved his 4 arms and tried to break the sword formation with all his might. Although he had made a huge sacrifice by cutting off 4 of his arms, his strength was also greatly reduced. But no matter what, he did not want to be trapped by Ji Tianxing again. At this moment, Ji Tianxing flew over and stood above the dazzling sword formation. He looked down at the divine lightning emperor from above. Ancient divine lightning emperor, this is the demon slayer sword formation that I designed for you using my origin spirit sword. It contains my lifetime's cultivation and Kenshin's Sword Dao ultimate technique. You must be familiar with it. Now, you have to enjoy the feeling of being sliced by thousands of swords. I will let you know what despair is." As soon as he finished speaking, he activated the Demon Slayer sword formation and controlled the 810 golden giant swords to attack the Divine Lightning Emperor. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Countless golden giant swords were arranged in a specific order and position. They attacked the Divine Lightning Emperor's origin spirit Dharma power from all directions. Each sword radiance contained unparalleled sharpness and seemed to be able to pierce through everything. The Divine Lightning Emperor was already severely injured and only had 50% of his strength left. He was also suppressed by the sword formation, so his strength was weakened. Naturally, he could not avoid the sword rain. Bam 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 bam. In the blink of an eye, the golden giant swords drowned the Divine Lightning Emperor's origin spirit. The golden swords of the origin spirit stabbed him wildly and attacked his origin spirit. There was a series of loud thuds. His origin spirit Dharma power, the double-headed blood demon that was as tall as a mountain, was instantly killed. Blood splattered everywhere as his body twisted and trembled. Even if he tried his best to resist, it would be useless. In just 30 breaths, the double-headed blood demon was sliced into pieces by the golden swords and turned into tens of thousands of bloody shards. During this process, the Divine Lightning Emperor also deeply felt the feeling of being sliced by thousands of swords. Chapter 1448. Swish, swish. The shards of bloody light that covered the sky and the earth quickly gathered together, trying to reform the primordial spirit Dharma form. Even though the Demon Emperor was filled with despair, knowing that he had lost the upper hand and would not be able to survive today, the Demon Emperor's heart was filled with despair. However, he was unwilling to give up struggling and resisting. Soon, the tens of thousands of fragments of crimson light gathered into a ball of blood the size of a palace. Right at this moment, Ji Tianqing waved his palms and unleashed a divine white light that enveloped the crimson light. Shwa! The dense white light contained a mysterious and powerful power. After wrapping around the bloody light, it released an invisible divine power that quickly purified and devoured the bloody light fragments. The Demon Emperor struggled with all his might, trying to break free from the seal of the white light. But it was all in vain. With his mortal body and Dharma form destroyed, his strength was extremely weak. There was no way he could break free. As the dense white light continued to surge, the bloody light fragments quickly dissipated, and their numbers became fewer and fewer. Ji Tianqing extended both of his palms and continued to activate the power of the heaven-mending orb. His gaze was cold and expressionless as he stared at the ball of bloody light. After a few dozen breaths of time, the bloody light completely disappeared. The tens of thousands of bloody light fragments were all swallowed by the heaven-mending orb. The all-powerful ancient Demon Emperor, who had dominated the continent for thousands of years, had perished just like that. Ji Tianqing slowly retracted the mysterious white light and removed the devil-slaying sword formation. He calmly looked up at the sky, closed his eyes and muttered to himself, "The ancient Diablo Demon Emperor has finally been killed by my own hands. He is gone forever. Palace Head, Emperor Yi, Emperor Shao Senior Sister Shui, do you see that? I killed the Devil Emperor with my own hands to avenge you." When he said these words, many images and figures of countless people appeared in his mind. Not only were there the palace chief, Emperor Yi, and the other three, but there were also Yun Yao, Ji Ku and Shi Zhongjian, as well as many people who had died under the demon race's blade. In the past few years, too many people had been massacred by the devil race, killed by the Devil Emperor. Especially in the last half a year, the demon race had slaughtered hundreds of millions of human martial artists and common people. Many human experts had also died under the blades of the Devil Emperor and the devil race. This war was a calamity for the Tianxian land. It was also the most tragic disaster in the past 1,000 years. Fortunately, Ji Tianqing had finally killed the Demon Emperor, which was enough to comfort the souls of the deceased in heaven. Just as his thoughts were spinning and his expression was complicated, an invisible and majestic force suddenly enveloped him. He was forcibly squeezed out of the chaotic space-time by that irresistible mysterious force. Light flashed in front of his eyes, and he left the chaotic space-time and returned to the high sky. Not far away, the great soul-severing ruler, that was like a purple ray of light, had stopped spinning. Shwa! With a flash of purple light, the huge extreme soul-severing ruler shrunk 10,000 times, returning to its original size, which was only 5 feet long. The divine ruler didn't stop in the slightest. It turned into a purple light and flew high into the sky. Under Ji Tianxing's shocked gaze, the divine ruler tore apart the blue sky, creating a black crack in the sky. Shwa! The divine ruler rapidly drilled into the black crack and completely disappeared. Then, the black crack slowly closed, and the sky returned to normal. As expected of a true divine weapon, it can tear apart the sky and escape into the outer space. Ji Tianxing was full of surprise and silently sighed with emotion. Of course, he knew that after the Devil Emperor died, no one could control the great soul-severing ruler. This kind of divine weapon was psychic. Of course, it would leave this place and return to its master's side. Ji Tianxing was only somewhat puzzled. He thought to himself, I wonder who the master of this divine ruler is? How did the Devil Emperor get that divine ruler? Soon, he collected his thoughts and turned to fly back to Central Continent City. While flying high in the sky, he looked down at the ground below and observed the situation on the battlefield. He saw that outside the north gate of Central Continent City, more than 800,000 devil race troops had stopped their attack and were resting on the wasteland. Near the north gate, more than 1 million human soldiers were also guarding the city walls and defensive formations, waiting for battle. Only near the east gate, more than 1 million devil race soldiers were still madly attacking the east gate. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing took out a pile of tattered robes, armor fragments and black scales from his spatial ring, as well as 2 pairs of broken black wings. These were all the Devil Emperor's belongings. When the Devil Emperor was blasted to pieces by the 9 heavens' divine lightning, he had intentionally picked up these fragments for other purposes. Shwa! Ji Tianxing's figure flickered, and he quickly crossed 1,000 li of the sky and flew to the north gate, above the head of the Devil Race army. The 800,000 Devil Race soldiers immediately saw his figure and sensed his powerful aura. Countless Devil Race soldiers raised their heads to the sky, furiously glaring at him as they let out war cries. On the north gate, the imperial tutor, the commanders and countless human soldiers also saw his figure. When they saw him return safe and sound, they immediately revealed looks of disbelief and cheered with joy. Ji Tianxing stood proudly in the sky, exuding a domineering aura, as if he was a deity. He looked down at the Devil Race army below him and shouted in a dignified tone, "The ancient Devil Emperor has been executed by my sword. All Devil Race soldiers, lay down your weapons and surrender immediately. Otherwise kill without mercy." His voice was like the 9 heavens' divine lightning, exploding in the sky and spreading thousands of li away. Within a radius of 1,000 miles, everyone heard it loud and clear. With that, he waved his hand and threw the robes, armor fragments, scales and black wings into the Devil Race army. As a series of muffled thumps rang out, countless devilish soldiers turned pale with fright, and they began to roar and curse in a frenzied manner. No one was willing to believe his words, much less accept this result. However, when the Devil Race soldiers saw the fragments and broken wings with their own eyes, they immediately recognized that they were the Devil Emperor's belongings. Those fragments and wings contained the Devil Emperor's aura and could not be faked. Ji Tianxing had returned safe and sound, but the Devil Emperor was nowhere to be seen. All that was left were these charred fragments. No matter how much the Devil Race soldiers worshipped the Devil Emperor, they had to accept this fact. Instantly, the 800,000 Devil Race soldiers were in an uproar, erupting into earth-shattering discussions, roars, and curses. In fact, many Devil Race soldiers even burst into tears and knelt on the ground, kowtowing non-stop. Near the northern city gate, the Emperor's preceptor and the other commanders all revealed shocked expressions when they saw this scene. They widened their eyes in disbelief. No one dared to believe that Ji Tianxing had actually killed the Devil Emperor. That was the reincarnation of an ancient demon seed, the ancient Devil Emperor, who had dominated the continent for thousands of years and was almost immortal. This was a miracle that had never happened in the past tens of thousands of years. Chapter 1449. The million human soldiers guarding the northern part of the city cheered excitedly, loudly shouting Ji Tianxing's name. Countless soldiers looked up at him with adoration in their eyes. They were so excited that they danced with joy. Whether it was 1,000 years ago or in the past 2 years, the Demon Emperor had wreaked havoc in the Central Plains, bringing great suffering to the human race. All of the humans hated the Demon Emperor to the bone, but they also feared him. Now that the Demon Emperor had been killed by Ji Tianxing, the shackles on everyone's hearts had finally been removed. The human soldiers saw the dawn of victory, so of course they were overjoyed, their spirits raised. The cheers of the million soldiers gathered into a mighty sound wave that spread through Central Plains City. Very soon, the human army garrisoned in the city, as well as the soldiers guarding the city gates, all learned of this news. Immediately, the entire Central Plains city boiled with excitement. Millions of humans were overjoyed, letting out world-shaking cheers and shouts. Everyone's hearts were filled with pleasant surprise, shock and disbelief. Their worship of Ji Tianxing reached the peak. The million demon army attacking the eastern gate also quickly learned of this news. When this news spread through the army, countless demon soldiers were stunned, as if they had been petrified, their bodies frozen in shock. They could not accept this fact, roaring in anger and despair, crying and cursing. The million demon army no longer had any fighting spirit. They quickly stopped their attack and retreated like a tide. The army's formation became chaotic. Many demon soldiers still had not recovered from their shock, crying and wailing in despair. The same scene played out outside the northern gate. The 800,000-strong army was thrown into a panic. Many commanders and warriors howled in despair. They were utterly defeated, countless people turning around and fleeing in panic. The demon emperor had already fallen. The demon army had lost their leader. They only wanted to flee back to the demon camp as quickly as possible. There was still a demon army of close to 10 million there, and the ancestor demon god was also in the camp. As long as they fled back to the demon camp, they could still rally their forces. Under the leadership of the ancestral demon god, they still had hope of breaking through Central State City and slaughtering all the human soldiers to take revenge for the demon emperor. However, Ji Tianxing stood proudly in the sky. His voice was as loud as a bell as he ordered in a dignified tone. "Open the city gates and pursue the demon race army with all our might. We absolutely cannot let them escape alive." At this moment, the demon race army was retreating in panic, and their morale was at its lowest. Of course, this was also the best time for the human race army to counterattack. When Ji Tianxing's majestic and domineering voice reverberated throughout the area, the imperial tutor and the other human commanders immediately opened the north gate of the city. Countless human soldiers rushed out of Central Continent City like a tide, loudly shouting as they began to charge. Ji Tianxing took the lead and rushed to the sky above the Devil Race army, releasing all kinds of powerful secret techniques, bombarding the Devil Race soldiers on the ground. The 800,000 demon soldiers had long been scared out of their wits. They were in a panic, and it was very difficult for them to calmly counterattack and defend. In a short 100 breaths of time, more than half of the demon race army had been slaughtered by Ji Tianxing. There were only 300,000 left. At this time, 1 million human soldiers rushed out of Central Continent City, crossing the wasteland like a gust of wind, chasing after the 300,000 remnants of the demon race army. Ji Tianxing turned around and left, flying towards the east gate as fast as lightning. Under his orders, Xiao Han opened the east gate, also leading several 100,000 human soldiers to chase after the retreating demon race army. Ever since the demon race started the war 2 years ago, the human race had always been in a passive state of defense. It was like this in the northern battlefield, And it was also like this in Heaven Dragon Pass. In the end, at the critical juncture of life and death, the human race could only hole up in Central Continent City, relying on the defensive array to resist the demon race's invasion. Now, the demon emperor had been killed, and the demon race army had fled in defeat. The human race soldiers could finally hold their heads high. They valiantly charged out of Central Continent City in high spirits, chasing after the demon race army like a hot knife through butter. This kind of carefree change in status and situation made the blood of the human race soldiers boil, their morale soaring. As time passed, the two armies got further and further away from Central Continent City. They had already chased for 2,000 li. The demon race army's numbers were constantly decreasing. More than half of them were nibbled away by the human race soldiers. According to the current situation, before the demon race could escape back to the main camp, they would be slaughtered to the last. On the contrary, the human race army's numbers were constantly increasing, gradually reaching 3 million. The Golden Dragon Emperor led the water race soldiers to assist in the battle, pincer attacking the demon race army from the sides. The demon race army suffered disastrous casualties, almost falling into a desperate situation. The 500,000 survivors could only hold on for an hour, at most, before they were all killed. Ji Tianxing had the imperial tutor, and the human race commanders command the army to encircle and annihilate the demon race. He rushed alone 1,000 li away to assist the heavenly net demon emperor and the demon race army. The demon emperor led the demon race army, fighting fiercely with the demon race army. The battle was incomparably bitter. When Ji Tianxing arrived at the battlefield, the mountains and rivers in a radius of 200 to 300 li were covered in corpses, blood flowing like a river. The demon race army still had more than 700,000 survivors, but 40% of the demon race soldiers had died in battle, leaving only 600,000 survivors. They were still bitterly holding on. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing immediately took action. He used the meteor fire rain, causing the outer heavens flowing fire to fall from the sky, bombarding the demon race army's battle formation. At least 300,000 demon soldiers, powerful demonic beasts, ghosts and skeletons were buried in the sea of fire, burned to ashes. The mountains and rivers in a radius of a few dozen li were also burned into a flood of lava by the heavenly fire. Then, he took out the heavenly Dipper God fire cauldron, activated the power of the cauldron, and poured torrential flames and violent astral winds into the demon race camp. In just 10 short breaths, another 200,000 demon soldiers were burned to ashes by the heavenly wind-flowing fire. The demon race army's numbers had been reduced by 80%, leaving only a few 100,000 survivors. They were all scared out of their wits and fled in panic. Several soul-tempering realm blood gods and powerful demon race cultivators were also intimidated by Ji Tianxing's power. They did not dare to get close at all and fled for their lives. Ji Tianxing chased after them and released a sky full of lightning and light swords, quickly killing the blood gods. The demon race army's morale was greatly boosted. They cheered excitedly and launched a counterattack in pursuit. The remaining few 100,000 demon soldiers were slaughtered by the demon race army after fleeing for 400 to 500 li. The demon race's crisis was finally resolved. The heavenly net demon emperor flew from the sky and landed in front of Ji Tianxing. He greeted Ji Tianxing and asked him about the situation at middle ground anxiously. When he learned that the demon emperor had been killed and the demon race army had been completely defeated, he was instantly shocked and inexplicably horrified. He had never thought that Ji Tianxing would have such terrifying power to create such a shocking feat and kill the ancient demon emperor. After regaining his senses, he was full of praise and admiration for Ji Tianxing. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.